Welcome to Blood Moon Publishing.
Chapter 1. My paws pound on the moss-covered forest floor. My breath comes in ragged pants. My lanky legs carry me in no clear direction with no decided destination. The wind is chilled, biting at my fur as my four-footed body twists and weaves through the dense pine trees of northern Vermont. Vermont had been my home, the sanctuary of the 300 werewolves that called the Stone Ridge Pack family. For all 18 years of my life, I had belonged here. But today, the sanctuary broke. I was no longer welcome in Vermont territory. The venomous howls echoing behind me were a final, brutal eviction. I pushed my body to run faster. My wolf ached from overexertion, but that is to be expected when running for your life. I knew the moment I stopped to rest, they would be on me. They had destroyed my pack. They had taken my baby sister right before my eyes. For a second, the image of her big eyes widened in fear. Glistening tears rolling down her rose-red cheeks invaded my head. My wolf wanted to howl in sorrow. She wanted justice, and I knew that with my training, I could have fought. I was a warrior in training, but those dreams had been dashed like a million stars falling from a dark sky. It had been a regular evening. I had just arrived back from training when Alpha Hugo's voice echoed in my head through the pack link. Rogue pack attack. Everyone is under lockdown. Warriors to your stations. Immediately, the shouts of my fellow pack members echoed through the compound. I stood frozen as people ran all around me. Their voices blurred into a panicked hum. This was the first attack since the one that took my parents 4 years ago. Back then, it had been a suicide mission by a small group of rogues. My mother and father had died in combat, an honorable end for a warrior, they said. But it never felt honorable to me. It just felt like being alone. My sister. The realization snapped me out of the trance. Maze. Sweet, innocent Mai was all alone in our room. I raced down the hall, pushing through the crowd toward the stairwell. I cursed our 10th floor apartment. I sprinted up the flights, adrenaline flooding my system. By the time I reached the top, the hallway was eerily silent, save for the faint, sweet scent of lemon that was unique to Mai. Outside, the sounds of battle grew distant, replaced by a sharp, psychic ache in my mind. Every few seconds, a small stab of pain marked the passing of a pack member. The link was thinning. This wasn't a random skirmish, it was an execution. I reached our wooden door and kicked it open. Mai, I screamed. The kitchen was empty, an abandoned bowl of cereal still on the table. My heart hammered against my ribs. Mai, it's Kay. We need to go. I heard a small, muffled sniffle from the closet. I flung the door open. Mai, it's me. Please come out. I've got you. You promise? Mai's voice was a fragile whisper. I promise, I said, forcing a confidence I didn't feel. The small frame of my only living family member crawled out from behind my dresses. Her blonde curls were a mess, and her big eyes were clouded with terror. I gathered her trembling body into my arms, feeling her tears soak into my shirt. I will protect you, I whispered, moving her into a piggyback position. But we have to move fast. Stay quiet, okay? I carried her back down into the commons. It was haunting. The televisions were still on, broadcasting a sitcom in which characters argued over trivial matters. I almost felt a sense of vertigo. The world on the screen was so normal, while my world was ending. The moment I reached the back sliding doors, the scent of copper hit me. I stepped out into the clearing and stopped. The spring green grass was stained a deep, horrific red. I saw the faces of elders and friends lying still across the lawn. I didn't look long enough to see the details. I couldn't let those images take root. Don't look, Mai. Close your eyes, I commanded, my voice breaking. I wove through the clearing until we hit the tree line. I started to run, but a sudden, hollow emptiness slammed into my chest. The pack link went silent. Alpha Hugo was gone. We were alone. We were rogues now. We had been running for only 10 minutes before a predatory howl pierced the woods. We were being hunted. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of black fur. Before I could pivot, a heavy weight slammed into my side. I tumbled, skidding across the dirt. I hissed in pain, frantically looking for Mai. She was a few feet away, curled into a ball. A black wolf stalked toward us, a low, guttural growl vibrating in its chest. I scrambled up, placing myself between the predator and my sister. But then, a second wolf, a lean, gray shadow, darted from the brush toward Mai. Her scream of terror ripped through the air. "Get away from her!" I screamed, charging forward. My body began to shake as my bones snapped and reshaped. The shift was agonizingly slow. Before I was fully turned, the black wolf lunged, sinking its teeth into my shoulder. I let out a sound that was half scream, half growl as the transformation finished. I flung the black wolf off and lunged for its throat, fighting with a primal desperation until it moved no more. I spun around, my heart stopping. The scent of blood was everywhere. She was lying still on the forest floor. The gray wolf stood over her, his expression a cruel, silent sneer. He had finished his work while I was pinned down. As I watched, the light in Mai's big eyes began to dim, flickering out like a candle in the wind. She took one final, shuddering breath, and then there was nothing. A cold, bottomless rage filled the void where my pack link used to be. I didn't care about my own life anymore. I pounced on the gray wolf before he could even snarl, tearing into him with a fury that felt like fire. I wanted to stay there. I wanted to curl up next to her and wait for the end. But the howls of the rest of the pack were getting closer. They had taken everything: her future, her first kiss, her first shift. They had stolen the life of a child who had done nothing but love the world. I would not let them have my life, too. I would be her witness. So now, as I run into the unknown, I focus on the distance. I will fight until my last breath. I will do it for my parents and for their memories are my only pack now. I am a survivor. Chapter 2. 562. That is how many days have passed since they captured me. I never made it to the border. Exhaustion claimed me before I could reach safety, and when I finally woke, I was back where it all began, the holding cells of my own pack. Now, I spend my hours studying the small, painful reminders of what used to be. A claw mark on the wall from a rogue, stray pine needles that have drifted into the cellar, and a rusted key with my pack's paw print symbol lying discarded on the floor. Every detail is a ghost of a life I no longer have. For the first few weeks, I existed in a haze of silence and cold stone. The silver restraints around my wrists were a constant, stinging reminder of my captivity. My body slowly regained a fraction of its strength, leaving me to wonder why I was being kept alive at all. The rogues who guarded me never spoke. I was left alone with my memories, replaying that final night in the forest, wondering what I could have done differently. The guilt was a tide that threatened to pull me under. I felt hollow. My wolf had shut me out, and my family was gone. I had reached a point where I no longer feared the end. I was simply tired of the struggle. So, when the leader of the rogues finally visited my cell, I didn't move. Alpha Victor was a man who wore his cruelty like a badge. He was stout, with dark hair buzzed close to his scalp and eyes that seemed to absorb what little light reached the cellar. I memorized every line of his face, the face of the man who had ordered the destruction of my world. He stood behind the bars and smiled, his teeth yellow in the gloom. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice was a dry rasp and used to the air. The man chuckled. It was a cold, grating sound. My. Looks like there's still a spark in there. Don't worry, we'll see to that. You aren't here to be discarded, Kaelie. You're here to learn what happens to those who resist. Anger, cold and sharp, stirred in my chest. I glared at him. I've already lost everything. There is nothing you can do to me that hasn't already been done. His face flushed a deep, angry red. He gripped the bars with meaty hands, a low growl vibrating in his throat. You will address me as Alpha or Alpha Victor, he barked. And you will learn respect, one way or another. He turned and shouted down the hall, "Bring the kit." A young male wolf approached, pushing a metal cart. He kept his eyes fixed on the floor, avoiding my gaze. On the cart sat the instruments of Victor's malice, cold silver and dark vials that promised nothing but pain. I felt a tremor of fear, but I refused to look away. Don't worry. "This is only the beginning," Victor said as the young wolf hurried away. I thought I saw a flash of regret in the boy's eyes, but it didn't matter. No one was coming to save me. Victor unlocked the cell door. I pressed my back against the damp stone as he stalked inside, the door clanging shut with a finality that echoed through the hall. He began to look through the tools on the cart with a terrifyingly casual air, finally selecting a thin silver blade. "A bit of silver to sharpen the senses," he murmured, stepping toward me. He paused, a cruel glint in his eyes. I suppose I should know the name of my most stubborn guest. I looked at him with every ounce of defiance I had left. My heart thudded, but not just from fear. For the first time in over 500 days, I felt a flicker of purpose. I would survive this. I would love to see him fall, even if I had to be the one to drag him down. I would not let him break the promise I made to my family. I met his gaze and snarled a single name. Kaelie. Chapter 3. That was the first of many times. I had spent months in the shadow of Victor's cruelty, with only my hatred for him providing the strength to rise from the chilled stone floor. That floor had become my entire world, my bed, my prison, and my only constant. Over these past months, Victor had found a twisted satisfaction in testing my limits. He would descend into the cellar enraged, using me as the target for his instability. He is a man driven by a constant, erratic rampage. He lacks the leadership and steady hand that a respected alpha requires. I still cannot comprehend why the pack allows him to rule. The young guard who first brought the silver chains has been around frequently. He brings me my meager rations and, on the nights when Victor has been particularly merciless, he leaves water for me to tend to my spirit. However, he remains a ghost. No matter how many questions I ask, he stays mute. I wish to know his name, if only to have one memory of this place that isn't tied to the name, Alpha Victor. Almost every day, Victor pays me a visit to taunt me. Between the exhaustion and the lingering sting of the silver shackles, everything hurts. Silver is Victor's favorite tool. It dampens our ability to heal and ensures that the weight of captivity is felt in every nerve. But every time I feel my spirit begin to flicker, I remind myself of my family. I remind myself of my promise to them. Now, as I lie silently on the hard floor, I try to ignore the heavy weight of the silver cuffs on my wrists. I know without looking that my body is a map of the trials I've endured, thick marks and thin scars that tell the story of a year and a half in the dark. I am a canvas of defiance, yet somehow I still have life left in me. Suddenly, heavy, erratic footsteps echo through the cellar. I tense as I recognize the gate. Alpha Victor. As he comes into view, I hear him muttering under his breath. "Stupid rogues, think they can challenge an alpha," he snarls. That catches my attention. I lift my eyes as Victor stops at my door and fumbles with the key. I study his features and notice the dark bags under his eyes and his unshaven jaw. Victor looks more unkempt than I have ever seen him. He usually maintains a cold, calculated facade. Now he looks sleep-deprived and desperate. "Get up," Victor yells, kicking the iron bars. I said, "Get up." I shiver as I attempt to stand on trembling limbs. I clutch the damp stone walls for support, my breath hitching as the heavy silver chains pull at my skin. I try to suppress a sound of pain, knowing he feeds on it, but the weakness is hard to hide. Victor swings open the door, a heavy lash held tight in his hand. His eyes are manic. "How dare you look at me with that gaze? You are lucky I let you breathe. I should have ended you the same day I ended your sister." He snarls, leaning into my space. At his words, I see red. Deep within my mind, I feel my wolf start to stir. My heart aches at the mention of but I feel a burst of heat from my wolf's reappearance, a spark of fire in a frozen cell. "You think I owe you gratitude?" I growl, my voice raspy but steady. "You have made my life a nightmare. You have tried to break me until I couldn't stay awake. You took everything from me, and I will never offer you even an ounce of respect." I move to defend my space, but in my weakened state, he easily shoves me back. I hit the floor hard, the world spinning. "You have made a grave mistake," he screams. Before I can recover, a searing heat erupts across my shoulders. I arch against the stone, biting my tongue to keep from giving him the satisfaction of a scream. He strikes again, the sound of the lash echoing off the cellar walls. "You are useless," he screams, his voice cracking with a loss of control. By now, I am seeing stars. My arms shake as I try to hold my body off the floor. I want to roar. I want the entire pack to hear the madness of the man who leads them. Each strike is a test of my resolve, but I grit my teeth until I taste copper, refusing to break. My wolf wants to surge forward, but I try to calm her. We cannot waste our remaining energy on a man who is physically stronger while we are still bound by silver. "I am stronger than you know," I hiss through closed eyes. That earns me another blow. All I know is that survival is my only option. Usually, Victor stops to watch me suffer in silence, but today, something has pushed him over the edge. He is unraveling. He screams into the ringing silence of my ears as I feel the world start to tunnel. My body trembles, nearly giving in to the sheer exhaustion. My eyes drift shut, and just as I am about to lose consciousness, a new sound pierces through the cellar. It isn't a scream or a lash. It's the deafening, rhythmic blare of the pack warning alarm. We are under attack. Chapter 4. I woke to the feeling of hands trying to lift me off the damp floor. I groaned as my body regained consciousness, every muscle protesting the movement. I wanted to fall back into the abyss where only my dreams existed, but then I remembered. I remembered the warning alarm. An alarm like that only sounds when a pack is in immediate danger. If we had been given this chance before, maybe my family would still be here. I slowly opened my eyes to find the mute boy watching me. Seeing I was awake, he retreated slightly, as if I were something fragile. I struggled to sit up, my wolf's instincts making me wary of anyone in my space. I studied the boy's sunken eyes and pale skin. He had clearly carried his own share of the pack's darkness. The door behind him was slightly ajar. My heart skipped. Victor was nowhere to be seen. This was a risk the boy was taking, one that could cost him everything. "I don't know why you're doing this, but you need to go," I whispered, my voice cracked from disuse. "If Victor finds you helping me, he won't show mercy. I'm not worth your life." He just stared, his expression solemn. When I struggled to stand and my knees buckled, he didn't hesitate. He reached out a scarred hand, a silent offering of strength. I took it, using him as a crutch until my legs remembered how to hold my weight. "Why?" I asked again. His lips moved, but no sound came out. He simply shook his head and gestured toward the door. "What's your name?" "I should at least know who my knight in shining armor is," I said, attempting a small, shaky smile. It felt foreign to joke, but it was a spark of the girl I used to be before the world went dark. A small smile touched his face before a crash in the distance cut us short. Immediately, he gripped my hand and pulled me toward the corridor. We navigated the prison like shadows. The halls were eerily empty. It seemed the attack had drawn every able-bodied guard to the front lines. We raced up a narrow stairwell and pushed open a heavy metal door. The air hit me first, crisp, cool, and smelling of pine and freedom. I watched the trees sway and the dew-covered grass glisten in the sun. I had forgotten the forest could be this beautiful. In the distance, the sounds of battle echoed through the trees. Victor's pack was finally facing the consequences of his cruelty. "So, we run?" I asked, looking at the tree-lean. He shook his head, pointing first at me and then toward the deep woods. He wasn't coming. My heart ached for him. He was choosing to stay in the only home he knew, even if it was a cage. "What is your name?" "Please," I pleaded. "I can't just call you the boy." He pointed to the sky with a shaky hand. I looked up at the vast, blue expanse and then back at him. "Toby?" I whispered. He gave me a wide, youthful grin. He couldn't have been more than 16. He waved me toward the forest, urgency written across his face. "Goodbye, Toby. I'll come back for you," I promised, a new fire igniting in my chest. "I'll find a way to save you from this place." An ear-splitting howl sounded from the village, and I knew my time was up. With one last look, I sprinted into the trees. I felt the shift take over, a glorious, liberating surge of power. The tattered remnants of my past fell away as I slipped into the rhythm of 4 paws hitting the earth. I headed east. I didn't know the territory ahead, but it didn't matter. Anything was better than the hell I had left behind. My wolf pushed my weakened body harder than I thought possible, driven by the sheer adrenaline of being free. After hours of running, the air pressure shifted. I had crossed the border. I breathed a prayer of thanks to the moon goddess as I finally allowed my body to give in. I collapsed onto a bed of moss, the exhaustion finally winning. But as my eyes closed, for the first time in a year and a half, I didn't feel like a prisoner. I felt safe. Chapter 5. The first thing I notice when I regain consciousness is that I am floating. Well, if you want to get technical, I'm being carried. By whom I do not know, but I hope it is not a member of Victor's pack that illegally crossed the border to retrieve me. I would sooner die than return. I slowly squint open my puffy eyelids to look around. I see a bulky man with a chiseled jaw, covered in stubble, holding me bridal style. He is looking straight forward as we walk through the woods, so I don't think he has seen that I'm awake. He is a werewolf, my wolf informs me in an irritated voice. Of course he is. I need to pull myself together and leave the country for some tiny island where I can live the rest of my life in peace. Of course, that would all happen after I regain my strength and give Victor a piece of my mind. I let my body become limp in the man's arms as I roll out of his grasp. That's when I realize that I'm covered by an oversized black t-shirt that I can only assume belongs to the man in front of me. I land on the ground with a soft thud and quickly spring to my feet to avoid an oncoming attack. Easy, easy, the man says, startled. My wolf takes over, and a snarl escapes my mouth. Thankfully, it seems this man is aware of my status. I'm not going to hurt you, but if you run, others will hunt you down, he says calmly, holding his hands up to show he is unarmed. I study him cautiously. He has shaggy black hair and bright eyes that express truth. I know I can't trust him completely, but if I can get him to let me go on my way, that would be ideal. My name is Kaelie, I say slowly as I try to calm my agitated wolf. My rescuer looks me over, and his expression softens at the sight of my bruises and scars. I try to hide them, but they are everywhere. Where did you come from, Kaelie? If I may ask, he says curiously. I look down, deciding whether to tell the truth. I was being held by an anonymous pack, and I escaped. I ran across the nearest border, which happens to be yours. You belong to the Bloodwater main pack, right? Yes. I am actually the beta. My name is Barrett. He informs me with a hint of pride. I am in a difficult spot. Getting the beta of a pack to let me roam free is much harder than being an ordinary wolf. A beta feels deep loyalty to their alpha and would not let me go because it is their duty to serve. But it is worth a try. I really don't want to inconvenience your pack, I plead. You let me go, and I won't utter a word of our encounter. Plus, I'm just passing through to rogue territory. You won't ever see me again. Barrett's expression immediately turns stony. You know I can't do that. My alpha has already sensed your presence and has ordered me to retrieve you for questioning. Do not try to guilt me into letting you go, and certainly don't say things like that around the alpha. He will not tolerate it. He reaches out, his grip firm and unyielding as he steers me toward the pack's headquarters. I stumble forward, then decide on a new plan. I dig my heels into the forest floor, bringing us to a stop. As soon as Barrett stops moving, I lurch forward and attempt to break his hold. Shit! He exclaims. He moves with blurring speed, blocking my path and forcing me to the ground to prevent me from bolting. I collide with the dirt, the impact sending a jolt of agony through my healing back. I cry out as the pain intensifies. Barrett quickly realizes the extent of my injuries. He removes his weight and carefully picks me up before sprinting off. I wither in agony as we fly through the trees. Soon, everything becomes numb. Hold on, Kaelie. I know you don't want to see the alpha, but he can help you. You need it. He is right that I want nothing to do with their alpha. I have no idea what he will do to me. After everything Victor put me through, the last thing I need is dealing with another egotistical male who thinks everyone is beneath him. The next thing I remember, I'm lying on a white sheet-covered bed with monitors beeping. I slowly sit up and notice the pain in my back has faded, likely the result of strong medication. I am wearing a hospital gown, and my skin has been scrubbed clean. My blonde curls are silky and scented with vanilla. The room is small with peach walls and a single window. I lift my body out of the cot and let my feet hit the cool tile floor. I need to know how high up I am. I pad over to the window and look out. My room is at least 6 stories up. I won't risk jumping. I turn my focus to the hall. Slowly, I ease open the door and peek out. It is empty, so I make a run for it. I race down the hall, hoping to find an emergency exit. My wolf is very antsy. A loud, commanding voice booms through the hallway. My wolf yips in excitement, but I shut her out. Where is this rogue, and why haven't I questioned her earlier? You know we can't have rogues running around. Barrett, an authoritative voice orders from nearby. Shivers race down my back. I hear footsteps and start to panic as I reach a door and find it locked. I push my weight against it. Open the door. I yell as I kick at the frame. I see Barrett round a corner at the other end of the hall. I use my wolf strength to force the lock, breaking it. I tug it open and race down a stone stairwell. Hey, what do you think you are doing? Barrett shouts. If that is the rogue you let live, she won't survive another step toward my border, a voice responds. Once again, it sends my wolf into a frenzy. I reach the end of the stairwell and try the door that leads outside, but it is secured. I am trapped. An angry growl rips through the air behind me. My only option is to face Barrett and his companion. I force my face clear of emotion. I study the floor as the 2 men stop in front of me. Sparks erupt across my body for some strange reason, but I ignore them. Well, look what we have here. The little rogue that trespassed onto my land has the guts to run from me, a voice growls. Show some respect and tell me who you are. I refuse to be intimidated. Instead, I lift my head to challenge the man. How dare he speak to me that way? He doesn't even know me. I fix my face into a glare as I meet his eyes, and that's when my world starts to fall apart. Chapter 6. My eyes find dark, stormy eyes as my breath catches in my chest. My heart beats a mile a minute. Thump, thump, thump. I can feel each thud in my head, echoing around my brain. My wolf howls in joy as I behold the man standing less than 5 feet away. His pitch-black locks are cut close on the sides and longer on the top, allowing a stray curl to dip onto his forehead. He towers over me at 6 feet 4 inches in a way that makes the air feel thin. He looks me in the eyes, and then it all clicks. It's like suddenly my body and mind have been completed. This man is my mate. My wolf starts yipping in excitement, but I shut her up. Not only is this my mate, but he is also the man who called me a filthy rogue and threatened me. No way will I throw that aside just because of the bond. Respect cannot be given if it is not first earned. I school my face back into a scowl and face my new mate head-on. I notice Barrett standing slightly behind him, watching our encounter nervously. The masculine energy radiating around us is smothering. Do not speak to me like that, I growl. This only seems to anger him more. I notice his fists shaking. A loud growl rips from his mouth, and I challenge his dominance with my own defiance. He stalks forward. As he reaches out to touch me, sparks erupt all across my body like fireworks. His eyes become pitch black as his rough fingertips meet my skin. But then, the connection snaps. His power flares, a wave of kinetic energy slamming into me as he recoils. I am sent stumbling back, my shoulder hitting the stone wall with a jar. A sharp sting blooms on my forehead where I graze the masonry, and my vision swims as I slide to the floor. I feel a trickle of warmth down the side of my face. It hurts, but I will not cry out. I will not give him that satisfaction. I lift my watering eyes to my attacker and find him turned away. All I can see is his muscled back. A conflicted growl reverberates around him. It's as if he is also at war with his wolf. Show some respect, rogue. You're on my pack's land, and I am the alpha, he says, still without facing me. Lock her up. Maybe a few days of confinement will teach her some manners, he tells Barrett. My wolf howls in betrayal. Werewolves are usually severely protective of their mates the minute they lay eyes on them. It hurts my heart that he already treats me with such coldness. My mate stalks back up the stairs while I sit frozen. I barely comprehend Barrett slipping silver cuffs over my wrists. I barely notice the metal burning. All I can think about is him. Roland. The man who just cast me aside. I am steered back up the stairs by an irritated Barrett. In my weakened state, I can't even walk straight. Goddess, do you know what he will do to you now? He's lost his mind, Barrett groans. He must suspect I am the Alpha's mate. I won't be the one to tell him, though. The minute I see Roland again, I'm going to reject him. I will scream it loud and clear. So all you care about is your Alpha's opinion? I start to sob. I feel broken. Was I not enough? Was I not the perfect female wolf who kept her mouth shut? If that was what he wanted, then I'd sooner be alone. I was a warrior for my old pack. I would still be a warrior if not for people like Victor. People like my mate. Barrett looks at me with sadness, but it washes away as we pass members of the pack. To them, I am not a person. I am only a rogue without a name. I am taken down a gravel road until we reach a dark stone building surrounded by guard towers and barbed wire. Two stone-faced men stand guard at the entrance. Alpha Roland has ordered the confinement of Werewolf.Kaelie, Barrett says. My heart stutters as I hear his name for the first time. Roland. We pass through huge metal double doors. If despair has a smell, this is it, years of suffering and old iron. We pass cells where other wolves lie broken and defeated. I am sure my mate is a monster. I have no doubt that Roland has shattered himself in the process of breaking others. I find myself in a separate, secluded wing. Barrett leads me into a high-security room and undoes my shackles, only to secure my wrists to the wall-mounted anchors. My arms are held up, leaving me completely immobilized and vulnerable. Don't expect him to go easy on you, Barrett says emotionlessly as he turns to leave. Alpha Victor, I shout before he can go. That's the man who made my life a living hell. I don't care what happens to me, but if you ever run into him, tell him Kaelie survived. Barrett gives me a fleeting glance before walking out. Suddenly, I feel more alone than I ever have. Chapter 7. I don't know how long I stand in the middle of the room, secured to the wall. My hands are pulled taut, causing my shoulders to ache and my fingers to tingle from lack of circulation. Hunger gnaws at my stomach. It has likely been 3 days since I've had a real meal. What I would do for a hot pizza right now. I find my mind wandering back to a Friday night with a few months after our parents died. We were just kids trying to survive the loss. I remember the flour covering the kitchen floor and the sauce on her shirt. The pizzas probably tasted horrible, but for the first time in months, my head smiled. Now, a small wistful smile tugs at my lips, only to be wiped away as the door bursts open. The scent of pine and citrus hits my nose. I don't even have to turn my head. It is the smell of my mate. Well, what do we have here? Roland struts over, a sneer on his handsome face. I'd prefer to avoid talking to a being such as yourself, I state coolly. Roland grits his teeth and walks over to the wall of restraints and weapons. He stares at them, and I silently plead with the moon goddess that he stay his hand. You can imagine my shock at finding out you were my mate. Such a fragile thing, he says, his voice dropping to a dangerous low. He picks up a small vial of wolfsbane, a liquid that acts as a poison to our kind. It's Roland, right? I say, trying to get a reaction. He growls, stepping into my personal space with a menacing shadow. He shoves my shoulder back against the wall, his alpha aura slamming into me like a physical weight. My wolf whimpers, but I refuse to show fear. I'll take that as a yes, I say with fake cheerfulness. Then my voice turns dark. I, Kaelie, reject you. Roland's hand shoots out, covering my mouth. Sparks erupt across my skin where we touch, a cruel contrast to the hatred in his eyes. Don't you dare finish that sentence, he yells. No one rejects me. I am the one in charge here. He slowly removes his hand, and despite everything, a treacherous part of me misses the warmth of the bond. You are not deserving of having me as your mate, I spout out. If my hands weren't secured and raw from the silver cuffs, I would have fought him with everything I had. He uncorks the vial and forces the liquid against a cloth, pressing it near my face. The fumes of the wolfsbane hit me instantly. My body starts to shut down, and my eyes droop. Every part of me feels like it's being consumed by an internal fire. I shake from the intensity of the suppression. You mean nothing to me, rogue, he says coldly. And if you tell anyone that we are mates, I will ensure you never speak again. I scowl at him through the haze of pain. Roland watches me with a frown, looking at me like I'm just another chore on his list. As my body becomes weaker, I see him pick up a silver blade. Don't scream too loudly, princess, he says. He presses the flat of the silver blade against my leg. Even without a cut, the silver burns my skin, the pure metal acting as a brand. I gasp as the searing heat radiates through my nerves. You might want to step up your game, I say through sharp, shallow breaths. I might start thinking you're as weak as the alphas I ran from. My words only incense him. He presses the silver harder, the agony of the contact making my head spin. I bite my cheek, refusing to give him the satisfaction of a plea for mercy. Finally, Roland withdraws the metal. I'll see you tomorrow, Kaelie, he says, turning on his heel and walking out. Once the door clicks shut, I collapse against my restraints, my body racked with sobs. Everything hurts, the silver, the wolfsbane, and the crushing weight of the rejection. My wolf is howling for blood, and for the first time, I agree with her. When will this nightmare ever end? Chapter 8. I was left alone overnight. Even with the lack of windows, I knew at least 12 hours had passed since Roland's visit. I attempted to sleep, if you can call it that. It was impossible to find a comfortable position with my arms numb and secured above my head. Every time I dozed off, I felt like someone was watching me. After searching every crack, I spotted a surveillance camera hidden in the corner near the ceiling. I was never without a babysitter. I found my mind wandering to my previous encounters with Roland. I had given up on calling him my mate, and that would not change until he acted like one. His face swam laps in my head. I remembered his dark, stormy eyes, like ocean waves tossing with unsaid emotions. Had we met under different circumstances, I wondered what it would feel like to know the man behind the alpha's mask. I had once wished for a mate to save me from Victor and carry me into the sunset. But I was not a princess, and Roland was certainly not a knight. The reality was that sometimes the fated path was paved with jagged stones. The sound of the door opening echoed through the room. It hurt my throbbing head, which was just finishing ridding itself of the wolfsbane fumes. An unfamiliar scent of cinnamon flooded my senses. A man, perhaps a few years older than me, walked in with a tray of food and a medical bag. I greedily eyed the food while studying this new addition to my life. The man was a little over 6 feet with auburn eyes and caramel skin. His face was kind, and a small smile graced his lips. So this is the she-wolf that has sent my alpha into a rage, he said humorously. A small laugh escaped my lips. It sounded like a raspy bark. I prefer Kaelie. She-wolf makes me sound more intimidating than I really am. Well, from the way Alpha Roland and Barrett talk about you, you could have fooled me, he said. By the way, my name is Julian. I'm the third around here. He walked closer and unlocked one of my hands. I rejoiced at the small relief, shaking my wrist out to regain feeling. I'm sorry, but I have strict orders to only release one hand so you can eat. Most prisoners here never get fed at all. Julian handed me a cup of water. I gulped it down, relishing the cool liquid. I eyed the rice, fruit, and roll on the tray. My stomach growled. Julian hadn't moved to give it to me yet. I'll give you the food. All you have to do is answer some questions. One answer for one bite. Got it. I nodded vigorously. First off, where did you come from? I looked away, trying to sum up my history without revealing too much. My old pack was attacked. I was captured and held for 1.5 years by their alpha, Victor. I escaped a few days ago, and now I'm here. I said it confidently. I refused to let him pity me. Julian processed this and held up a piece of fruit. I snatched it and swallowed greedily. No girl I know could go through all that and still have life left in them, Julian said with astonishment. You'd have to be courageous to stand up to an alpha like Roland after all that. All I want is to leave my past behind, I said firmly. Julian looked at me with a mix of agreement and regret. I wish I could help with that, but first, you have to survive this. Alpha Roland is tough on rogues for a reason. But if anyone could do it, it would be you. I cracked a smile, grateful for human interaction that didn't end in pain. Julian looked at me seriously then, his voice dropping. Did they ever break your spirit entirely? Did Victor cross every line? I knew what he was asking, if I had been completely destroyed. He tried to break me in every way a man like that can. But I'm still here. He looked at me with a heavy heart and handed me the rest of the food. I savored every bite. Finally, he secured my hand back to the anchor. Julian pulled out his medical bag and inspected the burns on my thighs from the silver. I also serve as one of the pack's medics, he explained as he cleaned the injuries. I hissed when he hit a tender area, but he finished quickly. Thanks, Julian. It's my job, he answered, packing his things. I watched him leave, wishing I could talk more. A few hours passed. I couldn't stop thinking about Roland. I didn't want to be attracted to him. I wanted him to be another Victor, so it would be easier to hate him. But my wolf kept filling my head with thoughts of our connection. The sound of heavy footsteps neared the door. Pine and citrus flooded the room. I locked my wolf away as the door opened, revealing a frowning Roland. Is it true? He asked emotionlessly. I have no clue what you are talking about, I said, looking him in the eyes. Tell me, he commanded, his voice vibrating through the small room. I said I have no clue. Roland's jaw tightened, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the door frame. His eyes darkened, signaling his wolf was surfacing. Julian told me your old pack was killed and you were held prisoner. I felt a tinge of disappointment that Julian had talked, but I should have expected it. He was loyal to his alpha. Yes, that's true, I whispered. Roland turned his back to me, a low, primal growl vibrating in his chest. He was a wall of muscle and tension. How long? He asked, breaking the silence. He turned back, and for a fleeting second, his stormy eyes looked almost vulnerable, shattered by a truth he hadn't expected. 1.5 years, I whispered, looking at the floor. He didn't speak. Instead, he turned and exited the room, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoed in the silence. I heard a heartbroken howl in the distance, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony. My wolf howled back in a duet of shared pain. Chapter 9. Kay, can we go stargazing tonight? Mai's little voice whispered into my neck as I picked her up for bed. Today was special. It was the 1-year anniversary of our parents' deaths. This afternoon, we went for ice cream at her favorite shop. It was good for her to be a child. Our parents' death had forced her to grow up much faster than most her age. I realized that family is the most important thing to cherish. You never know when all you love could be lost. Only if you promise to go to bed like a good girl afterward, I said, looking at those blonde curls. She was the definition of innocence. We lay under the dark sky and watched the stars glisten like gems. I looked at the stars in gratitude, thanking the moon goddess for blessing me with 2 feet to walk under the sun and 4 paws to run under the moon. I imagined 2 stars close together were my parents looking down on us, smiling as I pulled my closer. I jerk awake with tears running down my face. I'm chained in Roland's detention wing. I sigh, wishing I could go back to the dream. Finally, you're awake. Julian is watching me from the wall. Beside him is a tray of vegetables and pulled pork. Some of us actually need to sleep once in a while, I say, brushing off the sadness. I brought more food, Kay. He walks toward me. Julian unlocks one of my hands, and I eat in silence. He has been very quiet, which makes me think something is going on. Julian, do you know why Alpha Roland insists on keeping me here? I honestly don't know. He has been very closed off recently, Julian says before walking out. A minute later, the door flies open and Roland storms in. He rams his fist into the stone wall, the vibration of his anger echoing through my whole body. He looks at me with a wild, jealous rage swirling in his eyes. Do you like him? He shouts, his voice booming. What? Instead of answering, he strikes the stone wall beside my head, the power of his blow shattering the rock. The force and the proximity caused the worn fabric of my hospital gown to snag and tear away from my shoulder, exposing my back to the cold air. I hear him take a sharp, jagged breath. I know what he is seeing, the landscape of my past. Hundreds of marks and white scars from Victor's cruelty. I close my eyes in shame, my head hanging low. My skin stings from the proximity of his outburst, but Roland hasn't moved. His breathing is deep, yet he makes no move to hurt me. We are frozen in time. Suddenly, the air changes. The sparks of the mate bond erupt across my back as I feel his cool fingers tentatively, almost reverently, trace the line of a scar. I gulp in a shaky breath. Please don't, I say quietly. I don't like that he can see my history written on my skin. Who did this? He asks, his voice thick with a dark, simmering protective rage. I thought Julian told you. I was captured and tortured for almost 2 years. Roland tenses at the mention of Julian, his hand dropping. He walks around to face me, his eyes becoming pits of darkness. You never answered me. Do you like him? Julian. I like Julian as a friend. Nothing more, I say calmly, meeting his gaze. His body relaxes slightly, the terrifying alpha shadows receding from his eyes. I let out a nervous breath. Why do you care? I thought you didn't give a shit about me. I don't have time for this, he snaps, though his eyes linger on mine for a second too long. I get lost in the depth of his stare, sinking into the thrill of having him so close despite the chains. And then, without another word, he turns and leaves. Chapter 10. Roland POV. Alpha. Alpha King. I reveled in the title. It demanded respect through earned dominance. Most importantly, it gave me control. I had built my pack from nothing into one of the most powerful in the world. People bowed at my feet. I had the power and the pack. I had everything but her. She is my mate. She was supposed to be my calm within the storm. Instead, I was the storm, and I was destroying everything in my path. The moment I first laid eyes on her, I was in a trance. Her scent infiltrated the air with coconut and roses. It was like a personal high. Her hair was waist-length, with springing curls, and her eyes were a deep forest green. She was beautiful, but I couldn't have her. I knew better than anyone that relying on another always backfired. That is why I turned to the beast within. It was easier to be a monster than to be vulnerable. Instead of listening to my wolf's pleas to hold her, I had slammed her back against the wall of the hospital. I remember how her small body looked on the floor. Dark bruises covered her skin. She had been hurt before she ever reached me. Not like you are much better, my wolf snarled as I ordered Barrett to lock her up. I tried to run to clear my mind, but the urge to return to her was too strong. I turned to the only distraction I knew, the prison. I walked down the rows of cells until I reached a traitor who had tried to undermine our fighting plans. I let my self-induced heartbreak fuel my cold interrogation. By the time I was finished, the traitor was a broken man, and I mind-linked a guard to dispose of him. But even death couldn't drown out the thought of her. I made my way to the private chamber where she was being held. Well, what do we have here? I drawled. She hung from the wall anchors, her face a mask of hate. My wolf whimpered at her distaste for me. I, on the other hand, preferred it. Hate was safer than love. I'd prefer to avoid talking to a disgusting being such as yourself, she said. I grit my teeth. I walked over to the wall of restraints. Ignoring my wolf, I chose a vial of wolfsbane. You can imagine my shock at finding out you were my mate. Sadly, I have no desire for one. I think I'd have much more fun with you in a setting like this, I said, the lies tasting like ash in my mouth. It's Roland, right? She said suddenly. The sound of my name made me weak. I smothered the urge to hold her and instead shoved her shoulder back against the stone, my alpha aura slamming into her like a physical weight to force her silence. I'll take that as a yes, she said with mock cheerfulness. Then her demeanor turned dark. I, Kaelie, reject you. I slapped my hand over her lips. The thought of her rejecting me and running to another sent me into a frenzy. Don't you dare finish that sentence. No one ever rejects me. I slowly removed my hand, already missing the sparks of her skin. You are not deserving of having me as your mate, Kaelie spat. I took the vial and forced the wolfsbane fumes near her. Her body trembled, her knees wobbling as the suppression took hold. It was hard to watch, but I had to convince her and myself that she meant nothing. By the time I am done with you, you won't be more than a memory, I told her. And if you tell anyone we are mates, I will ensure you never speak again. I grabbed a silver blade. Every step toward her was a battle with my own soul. I pressed the flat of the silver blade against her leg, the pure metal acting as a brand. I tried to ignore the way she gasped as the searing heat radiated through her. You might want to step up your game. I might start thinking you're a weak alpha, she whispered through sharp breaths. Her lack of fear irritated me. I pressed the silver harder, the agony of the contact clear in her eyes. I waited until I couldn't stand the smell of my own cruelty before withdrawing the metal. See you tomorrow, Kaelie, I said, bolting out of the room before my mask could slip. I shifted and ran into the woods, the howl of my wolf echoing the heartbreak I refused to acknowledge. I ran for miles, trying to convince myself of the ultimate lie: she means nothing. Chapter 11. Wind whipped through my black fur as my paws pounded the forest floor. I needed to think. All I could think about was her, the way her eyes showed no fear, and how she challenged me even in chains. Being in my wolf form only heightened the feelings I had been pushing away. I was worried for her, and it caught me off guard. Kaelie had already pulled my wolf and me into her grip, and I knew of no way out. I had been running for hours, waves crashing against the rocky shore. The moon goddess had cursed me with a mate, and I had let my instincts turn the gift into a nightmare. I was a monster. The part of me that demanded dominance was too strong. I had chased away everyone I ever loved. Talia, my twin sister. I couldn't lose someone else. I made the grueling trek back home, stalling. Passing through the pack grounds, I saw children playing, their laughter a reminder of why I took my duties so seriously. I wanted them to have the peace I never did. I reached my private residence on the water. Inside, the walls were covered with a few pictures of Talia and me. It hurt to look at them. Every day was a battle, but when I first saw Kaelie, I felt a flicker of light. That was why I pushed her away. I knew that if I let her in, I'd only fail her. I pulled out a pan and whipped up some pasta. Meet me at my house, I demanded through the mind link to Julian. Julian arrived minutes later with a bottle of bourbon. His kind nature was usually a good offset to my cold exterior. After taking a few bites, I broke the silence. How is she? She has been through hell, Roland, Julian said seriously. He told me about her pack being attacked and her time as Victor's prisoner. My growl rose in my throat. I felt a surge of protectiveness, but I hated the admiration in Julian's voice. She is mine, my wolf snarled. Has she said anything else? Is she healing? I asked. Julian frowned. You know it was your hand that added to her pain. She's done nothing to deserve this. My control snapped. My alpha aura flared, heavy and suffocating. Do not test me, Julian. Kaelie is mine to worry about. Julian paled and shrank back. Roland, you're crossing lines. Kill her or let her go. Just stop the suffering. He stood up and left. I stared at the empty room, the silence deafening. I knew I had to see her. I walked to her cell. Is it true? I asked, my voice tight. When she confirmed the 1.5 years of torment, my world tilted. I couldn't look at her. I stormed out, shifting into my wolf before I even cleared the building, a howl of shared agony leaving my throat. I woke up the next morning and headed to the pack house office. I logged into the monitor system and clicked on the camera in Kaelie's cell. I watched her laughing with Julian. She was smiling, giggling. My hand shook. Why could she smile for him and not for me? Jealousy, hot and sharp, sent me sprinting to the prison. I unlocked her door and walked in, my fist slamming into the stone wall with a crack. What is going on? She yelled. Do you like him? I shouted, my knuckles white. What? In my rage, I struck the wall beside her, the air of the movement and the force of my aura causing the worn fabric of her gown to snag and tear away from her shoulder. My breath froze as I saw her back. Sickness flooded me. Kaelie's back was a map of tragedy. Hundreds of white scars, crossed and layered from years of Victor's cruelty. The marks were a testament to her strength and my own failure. I reached out a shaky hand and touched her bare flesh. Please don't, she said quietly. Who did this? I asked, my voice thick with a dark, protective anger. I was captured and tortured, she whispered. I immediately tensed. I never realized it was this bad. I withdrew my hand and faced her. You never answered me. Do you like him? Julian. I like him as a friend. Nothing more, she said calmly. My body relaxed. The alpha shadows receded from my eyes. Why do you care? She accused. I thought you didn't give a damn about me. I looked away, unable to meet her forest green eyes. I couldn't tell her yet. I don't have time for this, I muttered. I backed out of the chamber, her scent, roses and coconut, clinging to me. Her gaze followed me out, penetrating my mind long after the door had clicked shut. Chapter 12. Kaelie POV. I remember the feeling of the sparks between us, the way the bond flared across my flesh as he stood near me. He had looked into my eyes like a dying man, emotions swimming in the depths of his gaze. Then he was gone. I felt lost. Roland was a puzzle I couldn't solve, jealous one moment, cold the next, then sorrowful and finally closed off. For hours, I sat in the silence, contemplating the cycle. He pushes me away, feels the sting of regret, then runs from the connection. Yet, I couldn't find it in myself to hate him completely. Some part of me believed he was this way for a reason. Perhaps he was once the man I had dreamed my mate would be. My wolf was falling more in love by the second, claiming he had been hurt in the past and needed our help. I wasn't so sure. One of these times, things might go too far and I wouldn't be around to see the change of heart. Time passed, and I shifted into a more comfortable position. I was thankful the injuries on my back were healing cleanly. My wolf's resilience was finally winning. I found myself dozing off, my body trying to conserve its dwindling energy. These days, I only feel truly awake when Roland is near. The door to my cell creaked open. I shot a tired glance toward the entrance, praying for Julian. Please let it be Roland, my wolf countered, excited. As the scent of pine and citrus wafted in, I knew she had gotten her wish. But something was different about him. His eyes were empty, his skin looked gray, and his hair was a mess. He walked toward me with a gaze that was almost pleading. I soaked up the heat radiating from him as he stopped less than a foot away. My legs felt less numb just by being near him. We stood there in silence for a few moments, and despite my better judgment, my body hummed with a strange contentment. Open your eyes, Kaelie, Roland said softly. My wolf purred at the sound of our name. It rolled off his tongue like a chord on a piano. I didn't want him to use his mate effect on me, but I slowly cracked an eye open and glared. Why should I? Because I have to tell you something, he said, frustration bleeding into his voice. Fine. Just take a few steps back. He backed up, a smirk playing on his lips that made me furious. Why did he have to be so attractive and aggravating at once? Don't like me so close? I get it. I'm too much for some people, he said arrogantly, hands shoved into his jeans. Egotistical alphas aren't really my thing, so don't worry, I countered. He frowned. Well, loudmouth rogues aren't my thing either. Says the man who has treated me with such hostility for the past week. I bit back, hoping to hit a nerve. His fists clenched, then slowly relaxed. Look, I didn't come here for banter. Long story short, my wolf is giving me hell for how I've treated you. So here's the deal. I'll give you sanctuary in my territory so you can regain your strength. If you want to permanently join the pack later, I'll allow it. Option 2, I release you right now and you can run wherever you were headed. It's your choice. And if I were to reject you? I asked, testing the reality of the moment. He tensed visibly. If that is what you wanted, he said solemnly, I'm not sure my wolf would accept it. If you leave, I'd like it to be a mutual understanding that things wouldn't have worked out. For once, the mighty alpha looked like a lost pup. Rejection was a physical and mental agony that usually ended in tragedy for both sides. It was like having a piece of your soul torn away. I want to reject you, Roland, I said, watching him physically deflate. His body began to quiver as he prepared for the blow. But I won't. I don't want to suffer anymore, and my wolf would never forgive me if I harmed you like that. He lifted his face, and I noticed the color returning to skin as we stood together. The mating bond was blossoming despite the lack of care we had given it. As for sticking around, I'll see. But first, get these restraints off of me. His gaze hardened as he pulled a key from his pocket, the mask of the alpha returning. You realize I'm putting my pack at risk. You'll have a guard at all times. I'll provide living quarters with another pack member. Do not mistake this for a free pass. I understand, I said as he brushed his fingertips against my wrists to unlock the shackles. I shivered at the contact. All I ask is that I be allowed to train. I want to practice with your best warriors. He looked surprised, but didn't question me. Fine. But if you cause trouble, there will be consequences. He walked toward the door. I watched him, knowing I was tied to this man. If I stayed, I had to deal with his hot and cold moods, but I could finally get strong enough to face my past. Are you coming or not? He ordered. I started after him, refusing to waste this chance. Fine. But I swear, if you pull any more of that alpha routine on me, I won't hesitate to walk away. I'm not a pushover. If you mistreat me again, I'm gone. I brushed past his stunned figure and out the door, ready to face my future head-on. Chapter 13. Roland walked fast. My weakened body could barely keep up with him. I might as well have been running. Every step sent aches and pains echoing through me, but the minute I set foot outside the prison, I thanked the moon goddess for the fresh air. He led me across the lawn toward the iron gates where 2 stern guards patrolled. I followed behind him, self-conscious in the worn, clinical gown I was still wearing. I crossed my arms, trying to maintain some dignity as I felt the guards' judgmental stares. Nothing to see here, I snapped, meeting their eyes defiantly. One of the guards didn't like my tone. He stepped forward aggressively, his shadow looming over me as he shoved me back toward the gravel. I don't know who the hell you think you are, rogue, but you'd better shut your mouth, he growled, standing over me in a threatening stance. I hit the ground, gravel cutting into my palms. But before I could find my voice, Roland was there. His presence was like a cold front moving in. He didn't have to touch the man. His alpha aura flared with such intensity that the guard was forced to his knees, gasping as the weight of Roland's power crushed his defiance. Do not speak to her, Roland said, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. If I didn't need guards on this gate, I'd have you banished for such disrespect in my presence. He released the pressure, and the guard slumped, trembling. Roland turned back to me. Inside, my wolf was practically swooning at the protection. Outside, I was glaring. I could have handled it, I told him defensively, pushing myself up shakily. Roland walked over, a smirk playing on his lips. The anger was replaced by that aggravating arrogance. For some reason, I don't think you're in a position to defend yourself from a stiff breeze, let alone my sentries. Very funny, Prince Charming, I muttered. He actually chuckled, a real, honest hint of amusement. I stared in mock horror. Wow. Did you actually just laugh? I might die from the shock. Immediately, the mask returned. He resumed walking, though this time, his pace was noticeably slower. We entered the dense forest, the silence stretching between us. So who exactly will I be staying with? I asked finally. You will meet her soon, Roland said, slowing to walk beside me. She is a loyal member of this pack and has been kind enough to allow you to stay in her home. Hearing him praise another woman sent a wildfire of jealousy through my wolf. Well, I can't wait to meet her, I said with forced sweetness. I expect you to behave, he warned. Otherwise, I'll have you moved to the communal quarters in the pack house. It's loud, crowded, and full of teenagers. That was the breaking point. Do not assume you know me, Roland. I am a warrior. I have seen things that would make your communal quarters look like a vacation. His face closed off. Please excuse my comments. I haven't exactly had to deal with a personality quite like yours. That was it. My wolf clawed to the surface, starving for freedom. I let her take over. My bones shifted and twisted, sprouting in thick brown locks with silver streaks. My senses exploded. The forest came alive in high definition. I didn't run. I turned to face the alpha. For a split second, his face was open. He watched me as if I were something magnificent. I knew I was larger than most female wolves, but the look of pure admiration in his eyes made my wolf want to howl. Kaelie, shift back. Now is not the time, he commanded. I stalked forward, a low growl vibrating in my chest. I wanted to challenge him, to show him I wasn't just a prisoner he could order around. I pounced, a blur of fur aiming to bowl him over. But Roland was faster. He didn't strike me. Instead, he caught my momentum, spinning me and using his overwhelming alpha power to pin me to the forest floor. He loomed over me, his hands firm on my shoulders, his eyes flashing with dominance. "If you try to challenge me again while you're still healing, you'll only hurt yourself," he warned, his voice low and steady. He released me and stood up, raking a hand through his black curls as he walked away. He looked regretful for a split second, but the mask was back in place before I could be sure. I shook out my coat and shifted back, wincing at the drain on my energy. He was my captor, but I was the only one who could reach the emotions locked behind that alpha exterior. I followed him deeper into the forest. It was time to meet this woman he was so fond of. The real fun was about to begin. Chapter 14. We walked for a while, me on 4 paws and Roland on 2 legs. No words were uttered, leaving me with only the sounds of nature. It was a glorious moment of peace amidst the storm. Roland seemed in no hurry, and I didn't mind. Stretching my wolf's legs was a bonus, and she was content with the presence of our mate. However, I knew that the second either of us started to speak, things would likely blow up in an explosive show. I've started calling him Raleigh in my head, though he hasn't shared a single detail about our destination. My wild imagination ran through scenarios of being placed with someone who wouldn't understand my past. Finally, we reached a clearing surrounding a small, farm-style cottage. It had white shingles, bright shutters, and a yellow door. Rocking chairs swayed on a wraparound porch, and pots of flowers lined the stairs. It was quaint and quirky, a ray of sunshine in the middle of a cloudy day. Raleigh knocked on the door, appearing almost like a gentleman with his hands in his pockets. When the door swung open, a middle-aged woman with charcoal black curls and icy eyes appeared. She wore a faded green apron and held a spoon covered in cake batter. "Hello, Alpha. I wasn't sure when you would be showing up." "Excuse my appearance. I was just baking," she said, accidentally smearing batter across her forehead as she fixed her hair. "No problem," Roland drawled. "After all, you are doing me a tremendous favor." He shot me a glance. I huffed, but as I studied her, I realized she had no romantic interest in him. Her gaze was purely respectful. "Well, this must be the famous Kaelie," she said, looking down at me. "I'm Helena." I barked a wolfish hello and grinned. Helena smiled back, her kindness making my concern drip away like melting wax. She seemed genuinely nice. Helena shooed us inside, and I padded into an open-concept home filled with vibrant walls, antique furniture, and the sweet aroma of baking. "So, Kaelie, I have a room prepared for you down the hall to your left with clothes in it, if you want to change," Helena said while stirring her batter. I stayed right where I was. There was no way I was leaving Roland alone. It was pure mate bond instinct. I looked up at Raleigh with my biggest puppy eyes and wagged my tail. When I acted like an innocent dog, his walls actually seemed to drop. His eyes lit up and a small smile almost formed. "Seems like she doesn't want to shift yet," Helena chuckled, shooing Raleigh toward the door. "You go on your way, Alpha. I'm sure you're busy with the conference coming up." "Yes." "Well, if she gives you any trouble, just show her the door and give me a call," Roland said with a smirk. But as he stepped toward the exit, an agonizing sensation consumed me. It felt like a searing heat radiating through my chest, the physical pull of the bond protesting the distance. I stood frozen in the intensity of it until he finally exited the house and the sensation vanished into a dull ache. Helena knelt next to me, her face serious. "He is your mate, isn't he?" I nodded my furry head and looked at the floor. "That boy has made things difficult, hasn't he?" she said sadly, placing a hand on my coat. "I've never found my mate, but I can imagine what you are feeling." I didn't want pity, so I lifted my head and met her eyes with determination. I willed myself to believe in a better future. "Go get dressed for dinner. I don't serve wolves at my dining table," Helena said with a wink, returning to her cake. I trotted down the hall to the guest room. It was beautiful, with a king-sized bed and a white canopy. I shifted back into my human form, the bones snapping back into place with only a slight discomfort. I stood in the closet, shivering. Everything, the soft towels, the clean clothes, felt like so much. I grabbed a pair of shorts and a pink cotton t-shirt, then caught sight of the mirror. I hadn't seen my reflection in 2 years. I took a deep breath and stepped in front of it. A woman looked back. Long blonde curls, piercing green eyes, and a sprinkle of freckles. I saw a scar below my eyebrow, a reminder of what I had survived. I looked narrower, my cheekbones higher. I looked like a survivor. I dressed quickly, washed my face, and walked out. Maybe, just maybe, I could learn to find a home here. Chapter 15. The smell of seared meat, sweet potatoes, and fresh-cut fruits makes my stomach growl. I haven't given much thought to my nutrition in a while, but the way my body is reacting clearly shows I need to pay more attention. I walk out of my room and down the hallway to the kitchen, where I can hear Helena humming a tune I don't recognize. Another thing I've missed these past years is music, the way harmonies and deep bass can connect with you. Music makes the pain and hopelessness fade into the background. It was my sanctuary after my parents died. I remember that time, the months of depression and guilt. I felt the heavy weight of being the one who survived while they were gone. The darkness felt absolute, but then I thought of my sister, Mai. I wanted to see her grow, to tell her about the parents she wouldn't remember. So I decided to be strong. For them I would try, and for me I would succeed. Entering the kitchen, I find Helena setting the table. "Thank you," I say quietly. Helena yelps and nearly drops the plates. I'm shocked. I startled her. Werewolves usually sense everything. As she turns, her eyes widen, traveling over my human form for the first time. I remind my irritated wolf that she's just curious. "Is that you, Kaelie?" she asks, blinking. "My goodness, girl, you scared me half to death." I crack a small smile, feeling awkward. My sarcasm is usually my defense, but Helena's openness throws me off. I feel like I can trust her, but every fiber of my being tells me to keep my guard up. "I'm sorry. I thought you would have sensed me," I say, leaning against the counter. "After living on your own for 15 years, you stop paying attention to those things," Helena says with a shake of her head. We sit down to eat. Helena piles her plate with pork and golden brown potatoes. For a moment, I just watch. For me, food has been about survival for so long that eating for enjoyment feels foreign, almost greedy. Then I remember my upcoming training. I need my strength for the physical regimen of a pack warrior. I spread the floured napkin over my lap, a habit my parents instilled in me. I take a bite of the pork, and it's amazing. I swallow the food along with my heavy thoughts, quickly filling my plate again and again. By the time I'm finished, Helena is staring at me, her jaw nearly hitting the floor. The serving dishes are empty. "I'm sorry, I probably ate all your food," I say. "Oh gosh, no worries," she grins. "I'm just glad someone likes my cooking." "You can call me Kay," I tell her, gathering the bowls. "You made dinner, I'll clean up." Helena gives me a grateful smile that quickly fades into a serious look. "I know your past hasn't been easy," she says softly. "I'm not here to be your watchdog, but just know that others are here for you when you need them." She walks to her room, leaving me with the clicking sound of the door. I sigh. I don't want to burden her with my broken pieces. Even my own mate has kept his distance. I'm a mess, and I don't want to drag her down with me. I scrub the dishes until my hands are tingling, a sharp reminder that I'm still here and moving forward. After putting everything away, I stumble to my room and collapse onto the bed. I'm exhausted, a sign of how much work I have ahead of me to get back into fighting shape. As sleep pulls me under, my last thoughts are of one person, Roland. Chapter 16. I am being shaken. Actually, I'm being flung around like a rag doll. So much for sleeping in. I crack open an eye to glare at my disturber. Standing over me is a girl around my age with red hair pulled into a half pony. She is stocky and short, with an angelic face and bright hazel eyes, currently fixed in a frown. What in the moon goddess is going on? I sit up, rubbing my stiff neck. "Roland said you wanted to train with the best," she says, shrugging her muscular shoulders. She's wearing a gray tank top that shows off a well-built physique. I am the best. I look her over skeptically. She can't be more than 5 feet 4 inches. It's hard to believe she's the best in a pack of large males, but I know better than to count anyone out based on size. My own fire burns hotter than most expect. Well, tell Roland he should have let me sleep. It's way too early for this. I glance at the clock, 5:30 a.m. I groan and fall back onto the bed. My name is Quinn. She walks to the closet and tosses a pair of leggings and a tank top at my feet. Get up. We're burning daylight. I take a deep breath. I need this. I need to regain my strength and start the next chapter of my story for me, not just for survival. I wash my face and pull on the clothes. They're loose on me. I can see my ribs and my thin arms in the mirror. I look weak, and I hate it. I jog to the front door. I step out into the humid, misty morning. The sun is just peeking over the trees, casting light across the dew-covered meadow. Quinn is leaning against the house, looking bored. She heads toward the forest without a word. We will train every morning, Monday through Saturday, from 5:30 to 9 o'clock, Quinn says. I catch a slight Irish accent. No exceptions. I do not take training lightly. Is that really necessary? Training that much? I ask as we enter the thick tree line. Quinn stops and turns, her gaze turning sharp. Our pack suffered an attack 10 years ago, and our alpha lost a lot to bring us here. So yes, it is vital. She emphasizes the words, making sure I know I'm an outsider. My wolf stirs at the mention of Roland. I push the feeling down. I'm just a tool to him, a means to keep his wolf stable, and the thought makes me simmer with frustration. I used to train as a warrior, I say, pushing for information. Are you one? Quinn smirks. I am the commanding warrior. You should consider it an honor to learn from me. I owed Roland a favor. The way she says favor is knowing, as if they share a deep, private history. My mind immediately flashes to images of them together. Rage flares in my chest, and my eyes darken. I am no longer just Kay. The beast is surfacing. I move with a speed I didn't know I still possessed, closing the distance between us until I am inches from her face, my posture low and predatory. Watch how you speak about your alpha, I say in a deadly calm voice, my wolf's dominance radiating off me. Quinn looks at me and, to my shock, bursts into a graceful laugh. She doesn't flinch. She simply steps to the side, bypassing my challenge with ease. Oh, my goddess. You have some spirit in you, she says, resuming her walk as if I hadn't just threatened her. Good. You'll need it. I slowly relax my stance and follow. She's baiting me, testing my limits. Quinn isn't a friend or an enemy, she's a challenge. But she is my chance to finish what started when my old life was destroyed. I always finish what I start. Chapter 17. Faster. My legs pump, my arms swing, and my breath comes in ragged pants. I can go no faster. Everything inside me screams in protest as sweat drips down my face. I thought I said faster. Quinn yells from the center of the field. She stands there, looking perfectly composed while I work my tail off, looking up only to bark another order. For the better part of the morning, I've been running laps to regain my endurance. I've been at top speed for 2 hours, which apparently isn't enough for Quinn's standards. My bare feet are stinging from the rough ground. Finally, I stumble. I lie in the grass, fighting total exhaustion. I hear Quinn walk over. I groan, preparing for a lecture. Well, that was better than I expected. I thought you'd only last an hour, she says with a hint of sarcasm. I offer a weak grunt as I peel myself off the warm grass. The sun is in full bloom, and I'm covered in dirt, desperate for a cool shower. I swear, this training better be worth it, I tell her, hoisting myself up. Today is over, but tomorrow the real fun starts, she replies with a humor I don't share. I'll look forward to it. I plaster a fake, sweaty smile on my face. Quinn sneers and wipes some invisible dust off her skin, giving me the perfect chance to flip her off behind her back. I saw that, she says a few seconds later. I scoff. She slows her stride to walk alongside me through the dense forest. Her tone suddenly turns nonchalant. I know this isn't your first choice, but it will pay off. You don't have to like me, but Roland said you wanted the best, and I won't disobey my alpha's orders. He hasn't told me anything about why you're here, so excuse my behavior. It's a result of being left in the dark. I almost choke. Quinn actually sounds sincere. I could have sworn you sounded serious for a moment, I say. I see her crack a small smile, breaking her cool exterior. "Kay, you're a special one," she says. We walk for another 10 minutes in silence until I realize something is off. The scent of the air is changing. "Quinn, we aren't heading back to Helena's. Where are we going?" She doesn't reply, wandering forward on some unknown path. Soon, a salty breeze infiltrates my nostrils. The trees thin out, making way for a rocky shoreline. Endless blue stretches to meet the sky, waves dancing against the rocks like shattered glass. It's beautiful and dangerous, much like my situation with Roland. "Well, I didn't bring you here to stand around. Aren't you going to swim?" Quinn asks, already shedding her outer layers to reveal her athletic swim gear before walking into the water. I watch her with a mix of envy and hesitation. Quinn has the self-confidence I lack. Do I want to bare my scars to her? If I do, she'll ask questions I'm not ready to answer. But living in fear isn't living. Slowly, I peel off my shirt and leggings, standing there in my training gear. Quinn is already waist-deep with her back to me. I pad over the pebbles and enter the refreshing embrace of the ocean. It feels incredible. I swim out until the water is deep, then float on my back, watching the clouds. To wake myself up, I decide to dive. I take a deep breath and kick downward into the cool darkness, running my hands along the sandy bottom. Bubbles leak from my nose, and I know I need to surface. Suddenly, a shape to my left catches my eye. I turn my head, but before I can process the movement, impact. A sudden, heavy force strikes my temple. A sharp jolt of pain radiates through me, more intense than anything I felt. I try to reach for the surface, but the current pulls at my heavy limbs, and the darkness of the deep swallows my vision. Chapter 18. Roland's POV. My face falls onto my desk for the third time this morning. My body demands sleep, but my racing thoughts deny it. Last night was one of the worst I have ever had. I'd like to blame Pack Matters, but in reality, all I could think about was Kaelie, or Kay, as Julian calls her. My wolf growls inside my head. He's moody, believing I'm depriving him of his rightful mate. I'm only trying to save us from the heartbreak that comes when people inevitably leave. Keeping my distance is a precaution, as selfish as it sounds. I had mind-linked one of my best warriors, Quinn, to train her. Quinn had been my sister's best friend, and I trusted her to push Kay to the right level without breaking her. However, the more I sat there, the more I needed to see her. I stood from my desk and raced out of the room. I walked to the edge of the trees and inhaled. There it was, coconut and roses. There is so much I don't know about her past, yet I lack the courage to ask. How do I tell her my childhood was a personal hell? How do I explain that my own sister left me? I followed her scent until I reached the coast. The trees opened to reveal crashing waves and large black rocks. I spotted Quinn first, floating on her back about 15 feet from the shore. "Do you require something, Roland?" She mind-linked me, her voice dripping with annoyance. "Just checking on how training went," I replied. Quinn snorted. "I've known you for many years. You'd think by now you would have learned not to lie to me." I left Quinn to her sunbathing and walked down the shoreline. Kay's scent was masked by the salt water, and my heart began to hammer against my ribs. Finally, I saw a small form bobbing in the distance. Kay was floating on her back, her blonde hair fanning out like a crown. Then she dived. I watched for her to resurface. Minutes passed. The waves continued to toss, but no bubbles appeared. My wolf started to pace. Something was wrong. I ripped off my shirt and shoes and raced into the water. Suddenly, a sharp pain echoed through my head, the mate bond sharing her sudden panic. I felt a blow to my heart. I dove under, slicing through the waves. I couldn't lose her. I plunged deeper, ignoring the sting of the salt. Finally, I saw a dark shape suspended in the depths. Her blonde hair looked white against the dark sea. A dark mark stained her forehead where she had clearly struck something, the sight of her motionless form sending me into a panic. I swam over, grabbed her, and hauled her toward the surface. Her body was limp. I broke the surface, gasping, and swam for the shore with Kay cradled in my arms. "Hang in there," I whispered. I reached solid ground and gently laid her down. She was dangerously still. I began chest compressions, my hands trembling with a desperation I had never known. I leaned down, sharing my breath with her, the mate bond sparking with a frantic energy as our lips met. I focused only on the mission, willing the life back into her. After the fourth round, doubt began to settle in. "Damn it. Kay, breathe," I shouted. My body shook with grief. "You can't leave me." I held her, waiting for the soul-crushing pain of a severed bond to hit me. It never came. Instead, I heard a sharp gasp. Kay opened her eyes, coughing up the water. Her face was pale, but her skin was already warming. The mark on her forehead was beginning to fade as her wolf's healing kicked in. She sat up, looking at me with shock. I slowly let her go, giving her space, even though my wolf screamed to pull her close. She was okay. I ran a hand through my wet hair, the adrenaline finally draining away. Anger replaced the fear. How could she be so reckless? "Don't ever do that to me again," I said icily. I turned and walked back up the shoreline to find Quinn, my heart still racing with a terror I refused to admit. Chapter 19. It's been 2 weeks. 14 days. 336 hours. That's how long it has been since I saw Roland storm away from me on the beach, leaving me stunned and alone with the sand in my hair. He left me listening to the waves crash as my heart raced. Eventually, the shock wore off, and I just lay there watching the seagulls. Everything that happened comes back in bits and pieces, punctuated by the heavy thud of my heart. Thud. I'm swimming under the water. Thud. I see a dark figure to my left. Thud. The impact as I strike the rock. Thud. Everything fades as the darkness takes over. Thud. Arms grab me, pulling me to the surface. Thud. I feel his breath meeting mine, giving me life. Thud. I wake up coughing. Thud. Roland's cold words before he leaves me. Now, I am back in a constant circle. I train with Quinn, help Helena with chores, eat, and sleep. On the outside, I look content. On the inside, I am searching. My wolf is fading the longer I spend away from Roland. I feel like a traveler who has lost her north. I can't figure out why he saved me only to abandon me. However, my body is returning to its former strength. The hours of sparring with Quinn have paid off. She has become the closest thing to a best friend I've ever had. Over these past days, I've also come to know Helena better. She is wonderful, always making me feel at home. Do you ever find yourself missing your old pack? Quinn asks during dinner. The pasta in my mouth turns to ashes. Images of my family, the life we had before everything was taken, float through my mind. My old pack was like a big extended family, I say, staring hard at Quinn. But there is nothing left to go back to. They are all gone. The curiosity on Quinn's face is replaced by guilt. Helena breaks the silence, standing up to clear the table. Well then, who is ready for some apple pie? I help her, carrying dishes into the kitchen. My mom used to make apple pie all the time. As the scent of baked apples fills the air, Helena stops me from grabbing a slice. We have another guest. It is bad manners to eat without him. Julian, get in here. Quinn hollers toward the door. Quinn, if you don't shut your mouth, I will, Julian says as he struts in, glaring at her. Knock it off, you too. Helena frowns. We sit and eat, and for a moment, the cinnamon and tart apple take me back to simpler times. My mother always knew that no matter how bruised you were, you had to continue. Earth decay. Julian breaks my thoughts. He points to the door. I turn and find Roland standing there. He looks out of place, with dark circles beneath his eyes and a face that needs a shave. I hadn't sensed him, but now that he's here, my body vibrates with a strange joy. Hello, Alpha, Helena says. Roland's eyes stay trained on me, his pupils darkening. I need to speak with Kaelie, he says, his voice making me quiver. I stand up and walk toward the door. He backs up onto the porch, giving me room to follow. I close the door behind me and turn to face him. He looks at me, the arrogance gone, replaced by something raw. He opens his mouth and says 3 words I never expected. I am sorry. Chapter 20. Kaelie's POV. I expected him to follow me. I expected him to be right behind me when I ran off the porch and into the woods, but I didn't bother shifting. The world felt like a blur, the trees passing by like a dream. The only other time I had felt this disconnected was when I lost my sister. When my senses finally return, I am standing before the ocean. The sun is low, about to dip below the horizon. Everything is picturesque, but the weight in my chest is too heavy. Every memory surges through my mind in images without sound. My parents, and Roland. What is the point of the apology? He saves me, then he leaves me. I am starting to see how much of my spirit is still trying to heal. I am covered in scars, and my mate, the person meant to be my anchor, feels like he's just out of reach. For the first time in 2 years, I feel safe, but the safety feels hollow when the bond is in such turmoil. My wolf is only awake when Roland is around. The rest of the time, she is as quiet as the grief I carry. In the distance, a twig snaps, signaling Roland's arrival. I close my eyes. I can't bear to face him yet. I walk along the shoreline, the spray of the salt water hitting my face, desperate for the cold to wake me up from this haze. I want to find the strength my mother always whispered about, but right now, the ocean feels like the only thing that understands the depth of my silence. The supernatural pull of the bond is a dizzying weight. I do not realize how far I have waded out into the surf, my senses muddled by the fog of the mate bond's confusion. The tide is coming in fast, the waves swirling around my waist, pulling at my clothes. Kaelie, please listen to me, I hear him plead. My wolf is in a frenzy of sorrow, her instincts making the world spin. The bond is a wave of emotion I cannot control, and as the sand shifts beneath my feet, I lose my balance. The water is up to my chest now, the current surprisingly strong, dragging me toward the shelf where the shore drops off. Stop. Find your footing, a small voice inside me whispers. Kaelie, hang on. Roland crashes into the water toward my side. He sees the disorientation in my eyes, the supernatural trance that has left me vulnerable to the tide. He reaches for me, his hands firm on my shoulders to ground me against the pull of the waves. A single tear escapes as the fog begins to lift. Roland tries to pull me back to shore, but the current is fierce, and we both stumble as a large wave breaks over us. I want to speak, but the cold water hits my chest, and the world goes dark. The last thing I see is Roland diving after me, his hand reaching for mine through the blue. Thank you, I think. Thank you for not letting go. Roland's POV. I lift her out of the water for the second time, and the terror in my chest is a physical weight. Her breath is shallow, her eyes shut. She is like a sculpture made of glass, resilient and strong, yet I have pushed her to a breaking point I never intended. My wolf is howling in agony, blaming me for the distance I put between us. Helena had warned me she seemed off, but I never realized the mating bond could cause such dangerous physical disorientation when left unacknowledged. The mate's sickness had clouded her judgment, making her oblivious to the rising tide until it nearly swept her away. I shame myself for not helping her through it, for not being there when she needed a steady hand to navigate the bond's power. I had been distancing myself out of my own fear of loss, while she was the only thing holding my world together. I listen to the waves and feel Kaelie's pulse strengthening. A jagged sigh of relief breaks from my mouth. I will not let her feel alone again. I know what I have to do. Slowly, her eyes flutter open. When she is fully awake, I will tell her everything. I will prove to her that she belongs here. She deserves to know the truth about my past, no matter how dark it is, because I am never letting her slip away again. Chapter 21. Roland. 13 years earlier. Raleigh, Talia taunts, come up here if you can. A boy of merely 9 years old stares up at the park's playground, specifically at the tallest rock wall he has ever encountered. His short height makes the wall seem even more daunting. With his black curly hair, It would be easy to assume he had yet to make it through kindergarten. His hands are sweating as he looks at the intimidating wall. Talia stands at the top, looking down on him with a smirk. She has always been the daredevil of the twins, while Raleigh is the one who thinks rationally. "It's really high," he shouts up at her. Talia isn't afraid of the height. Standing atop the jungle gym makes her feel in control. Up there, no one can reach her. "Raleigh, stop being a baby and come up here." "I found our next hideout," she says seriously. Raleigh nods and grasps the first plastic rock. His motivation comes from the idea that this could be a safe place for them to hide when their father, the alpha of the pack, loses his temper. Many of their nights are spent huddled in dark corners, attempting to avoid his wrath. Raleigh's mother is aware, but she stays silent to protect herself, leaving the twins to rely only on each other. Talia and Raleigh often build forts in the woods, pretending they are castles of safety. However, their father recently destroyed their last one, leaving them both terrified and nursing the marks of his latest outburst for days. "I don't think I'll make it," Raleigh says, only a foot off the ground. "Raleigh, stop being silly." "I've seen you climb trees like a professional," she encourages him. At last, Raleigh reaches the top, and Talia helps him up. Together, they look out across the sea of trees. "Do you think father will find us this time?" Raleigh asks, his face becoming guarded. Talia's expression turns cool. "If he does, there's always another spot. One of these times, we will outsmart him." Raleigh turns to her. "Whatever happens, we go through it together, Talia, okay?" She starts to smile, but it is quickly washed away when the thunderous voice of their father breaks through the forest. "Where are you hiding, you little wretches?" he yells. Talia shudders, and Raleigh pulls her close. Roland, 7 years ago. He ran in his wolf form through the dark forest as if his life depended on it. This was the night everything was supposed to change. This was the night Roland finally stood up to the monster and ensured he could never hurt them again. It had been months in the making. Gathering support from other pack members was easier than expected. His father had made many enemies. Roland's mother had fled the night before, and his father was on the run, but that wasn't enough. Roland couldn't find peace until he confronted the man who had stolen their peace. As he tracked his father through the foliage, his sister's voice invaded his mind. "Don't do this, Raleigh. He won't show his face again." "Come home," Talia pleaded. "No. I need this," he responded. "Raleigh, let it go." He shook it off. Their father didn't deserve mercy. Had he shown mercy when he caused Raleigh so much pain or struck Talia? No. Raleigh was now alpha, and his first move was to rid the world of a man as cruel as his father. He heard his father crashing through the brush. His father was also in wolf form, but due to his age, he wasn't as fast as Raleigh. Raleigh raced ahead, pouncing on the reddish wolf. They tumbled to the ground, and Raleigh quickly recovered, circling his fallen father with a snarl. The red wolf slowly raised his head, his posture one of defeat. He lowered his body to the ground, pleading for mercy. Raleigh snarled louder. "Raleigh, if you do this, I will never forgive you," Talia said, her voice filled with emotion. Raleigh and his wolf were past the point of listening. He mind-linked his father, releasing years of pent-up anger. "Why? How could you hurt your own children? How could you hurt Talia?" The defeated voice of his father broke through. "I am not sure. I am sorry. I was wrong to put you through that." "Yes, you were. You ruined our lives," Raleigh snarled back. "Please, Roland. Forgive me." "Let me go," his father pleaded. "Please, son." At that, Raleigh snapped. "I am not your son," he yelled. "I am not your son, and I will never be." He stalked forward, his eyes flashing in the dying light. "Don't do this, Raleigh," Talia's voice ricocheted in his mind. For once, Raleigh was going to do what he wanted. He leaped forward, ending the cycle of pain once and for all. He did not look back as the heavy silence of the woods reclaimed the night. When he returned to the pack compound, Talia was gone. She did not even say goodbye. Chapter 22. Slowly, I crack open my eyes. They are stiff and swollen. Thin streams of light filter in through my eyelashes like half-closed blinds. All sound around me is muddled, foggy. "Kaelie," a voice whispers amongst the haze. Soft and gentle. I try to blink, but no shapes focus. "Open your eyes," a male voice says. Everything is much clearer now. Slowly, the sound of waves and seagulls registers. The steady crash of the waves is chipping away at the rocks like a chisel. I am lying down on the sand. Someone holds me tightly, like a lifeline. They cradle me like a fragile sculpture. I slowly take a breath. In. Out. It hurts my lungs. The taste of salt water remains in my mouth. Gritty, repulsive. I cough. That is it. That same wonderful voice. Calling me back to life. My mind slowly wakes up. Why am I here? What happened? I know I am at the shoreline, but how I got here seems distant, a memory hidden in a thick fog. What happened? I ask, my voice scratchy and broken. "You do not remember?" the man asks. "Do not move yet. Rest." He puts a calloused hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "Tell me," I insist. "You were in the water. The tide, the bond, it pulled you under." I close my eyes. It all comes flooding back. I remember the fever in my mind, the mate bond hitting a breaking point. My wolf had been in a frenzy, her senses completely haywire from Roland's rejection. She had not been trying to hurt me. She had been lost in a supernatural delirium, dragging my body toward the water as if the cold could break the fever of the bond. I had been a passenger in my own skin, trapped in a trance until the waves claimed us. I need to make sure this never happens again. I am stronger than the bond's pull. I have to be. I open my eyes and see Roland staring down at me with concern and care. I immediately try to get away, but my limbs are limp. "Let me go." I struggle. "Relax, Kaelie," he says calmly, releasing his hold and sitting beside me. I sit up, bracing my hands against the sand. The panic is fading, replaced by a cold realization. I look inward, searching for that familiar presence. Usually, my wolf and I coexist perfectly, but the trauma of the bond had pushed her too far. Now, I feel nothing. No silky voice. No warmth in the back of my mind. The connection that nearly drowned us both is silent. Is she gone? Have I lost that piece of myself? Tears of loss drizzle down my cheeks. I do not know if I will ever shift again. I am mourning a piece of my soul. "Why are you crying?" Roland asks softly. "It is nothing," I say. I am not ready to tell him that the bond might have broken us both for good. "Whenever you want to talk about it, I will listen," he replies. I look at him, soaking wet in his red plaid shirt, his eyes tracing my face. "Why, Roland? You hurt me, then you save me. You ignore me, then you rescue me. Why do you care?" Finally, he speaks. "From the moment I saw you, I knew you were my mate. But my past is dark, Kaelie. I have done things I regret. I thought that by acting like a monster, I could protect you from the truth of who I am. I tried to push you away to save you from me. But when I almost lost you in those waves, I realized I was a fool." He hangs his head, looking defeated. Then, the words tumble out, raw and honest. "I cannot live without you." Chapter 23. The moment Roland's words hit me, I freeze. My gaze remains trained on the rising and falling waves. They are in a constant battle of beauty and power, much like the energy currently vibrating between us. My breath catches in my lungs. My heart beats with the frantic rhythm of a horse racing through tall grass, the surroundings blurred by the speed of my own racing thoughts. I close my eyes, savoring the idea that I might actually be of importance to someone else. I have spent so long feeling like a burden or a survivor. The thought of being wanted is a luxury I rarely allowed myself to imagine. Inside, I glow. His words are the comfort I have been needing ever since I lost my. But on the outside, I am shocked as my mind tries to keep up with my body's reaction. What do I say? How do I tell him that he has become the center of my world? I cast my eyes downward, staring at my lap as if the answer lies hidden in the sand. The silence stretches between us, heavy and expectant. "I once had a sister," I whisper, the words finally breaking through. She was a beautiful little girl with blonde curly hair and big doe eyes. After my parents died, I insisted on caring for her myself. I was only 12, but I made sure I was there for her every second. She was my heart. I pause, the memories of the pack attack stinging like salt in a wound. When they took her, I was too young to stop them. They held me prisoner, and I only survived because I promised to honor her memory. But then I met you, Roland. Now, I find myself forgetting the darkness. I find myself focusing on you. I want to try to make this work, but you have to be patient with me. I am not great at letting go of the reins. So, tell me, are you sure? Am I worth it? I look up, meeting his intense, stormy gaze. Roland's eyes roam over my face, full of pent-up emotions. He seems to be bursting with things to say, yet he remains silent for a heartbeat too long. Are you that clueless? He asks suddenly. He looks almost exasperated. What? I retort, standing up as a spark of indignation fuels my weak body. Are you that blind? Roland is on his feet now, too. He steps closer, closing the distance until we are barely inches apart. Our bodies hum with the energy between us. Well, by all means, O mighty Alpha, grace me with the truth. My irritation is peaking, every fiber of my body charged. Roland lets out a huff of a laugh, a small, knowing smile tugging at his lips as he takes a half-step back. My skin immediately feels the loss of his heat. I step forward, closing the gap until we are eye to eye, breath to breath. Tell me, I say, my voice breathy and low. He leans his head down, his focus narrowing on me. Kaelie, he says sweetly, his voice a stark contrast to his usual cold exterior. You are the only thing that has ever been worth the fight. He leans closer, his lips inches from mine. My heart hammers, but my mind is a fortress. He has to earn this. Before the spell can fully take hold, I catch him off guard, giving him a firm, playful shove against his chest. He was not expecting it. He stumbles back, his arms windmilling before he hits the knee-deep water with a massive splash. He surfaces seconds later, his hair plastered to his forehead, a dazzling, genuine grin on his face. My heart does a somersault at the sight. That is the Kaelie I know, he says, wading back to the shore. Stop smiling like that. I snap, though I can feel the blush heating my cheeks. We begin the trek back through the forest. The path is narrow, and I follow behind him, secretly admiring the strength in his stride. Without my wolf's constant chatter in my head, the forest feels quieter, but the air feels charged with a new kind of tension. I was thinking, Roland says over his shoulder, you should come stay at the main house. With me. That is a no-go, buddy, I fire back. Helena's house is home. Staying with you changes the rules. Oh, I would not be so sure about that, he chuckles, his voice full of a hidden meaning that sends butterflies swarming in my stomach. The forest is peaceful, the indigo evening light creating a setting that should be calm. But suddenly, I slam into Roland's back. It is like walking into a solid stone wall. What the heck, Roland? I say, pushing at his shoulders. He whips around, but he does not look annoyed. His face is pale, his hand instantly clamping over my mouth to signal silence. His eyes are wide, scanning the trees. The woods have gone deathly quiet. Then, a sound tears through the night. A long, mournful howl that vibrates in my very marrow. I recognize the voice instantly. It is a message meant only for me. It belongs to Toby, the one person who risked everything to help me escape my past. The message in the howl is chilling. He found you. He is coming. Chapter 24. Dread builds up inside of me, a fire that threatens to consume everything I have rebuilt. I feel like I am floating outside of my body, the world around me dissipating like dew in the hot sun. I was supposed to be stronger than this. I was supposed to be immune to the terror Victor inflicted. I squeeze my eyes shut, attempting to block out the flood of memories. The echoes of his cruelty. The cold, calculated way he tried to strip away my spirit. This time, however, it would be worse. If he catches me now, he will not just want to break me. He will want to make sure I never run again. Stop it, I whisper to the shadows in my mind. Victor, why can't you just stay in the past? My vision goes dark, and I sink to my knees, hyperventilating. My body is shutting down. But then I hear it, a scream that is not a memory. It is coming from me. I quickly stifle the sound, gasping for air as the world snaps back into focus. Roland is there, his rough hands steadying my trembling arms. "Kaelie, what is going on?" His voice is like ice water, waking me from the trance. I do not have time for a panic attack. Toby is in trouble. He risked everything to help me escape, and now he is paying the price. We need to find him. Now. I stand up, hauling Roland with me. I know that wolf. He is in trouble. You need to tell your patrols not to hurt him. I start to jog toward the direction of Toby's howls. Roland catches my hand, halting me. "Kaelie, you just had an episode. This is hardly the time for a rescue mission." "Roland, that wolf saved my life," I plead, meeting his gaze. "He helped me escape Victor. I cannot let them take him. Please, call off your patrols. Tell them he needs help." Roland studies me for a long moment, his amber eyes searching mine. Finally, he nods, his eyes glazing over as he mind-links his pack. But my relief is short-lived. A loud, painful cry echoes through the woods. I race off, leaving Roland behind as adrenaline takes control. My senses are sharp, my body moving through the brush like I am one with the forest. Up ahead, I hear the snapping of bone a shift. Then a moan. "Toby." I burst through the brush. "Get your hands off of him," I scream. A towering man has Toby hoisted up by the throat. Four other wolves stand scattered around, watching. These are not Roland's men. They give off a dark, uneasy energy. The leader has long dreadlocks and beady black eyes that size me up with a sneer. "Go back to your pack, little girl," he mocks. "This is no place for you." "That boy is under my protection," I say, stepping forward with a confidence I do not feel. "And I am under Alpha Roland's protection. Unless you want to face the Alpha King, leave the boy and run." The man cackles, a brittle sound. "Darling, I would be the one running. This is my prisoner. No one is taking my prize." He drops Toby, dragging him across the rough ground. I lunge forward to grab Toby's arm, but the leader strikes out, sending me spiraling to the dirt. My face stings, going numb almost instantly. A man named Axel steps toward me, a dark look in his gray eyes. "Axel, control yourself," the leader growls. "Alpha said to bring the boy, not pick up extra trouble. He is already coming to see the job done. He does not like to be kept waiting." "The guy is too busy searching for the slave that got away," Axel fires back. The words rock me. Victor is here. He is hunting me. The fear tries to rise again, but I pour water on it. The only way to end the nightmare is to stop fearing the monster. They start to move away, dragging Toby with them. I am alone. Roland has not found me yet. My only option is to shift, but without my inner wolf, I do not know if I can. I close my eyes. I concentrate on that spark deep within, the strength that lives beneath my skin. Shift. Please shift. I take a shuddering breath. Then I feel it. The slight, agonizing slide of my bones moving into new positions. The change takes over. Chapter 25. Roland's point of view. The rogue wolf must not be harmed. Detain but do not provoke, I repeat through the pack link, my mental voice booming with the authority of an alpha. It is an order, not a request. I make sure every wolf on patrol acknowledges it. Each response is a stiff, uniform, "Yes, Alpha." My guards are the best trained in the region. They have the discipline of soldiers. However, as I look at the dark, oppressive treeline of the north, I have less faith in the variables I cannot control. I turn to find Kaelie, hoping to reassure her that I have handled it, but the space where she stood is empty. She is gone. "Shoot," I growl. The forest has gone deathly silent, a vacuum where the usual night sounds of crickets and owls have been swallowed whole. I sniff the air, caught in a desperate search for that familiar scent of roses and coconuts. When the wind finally shifts, carrying her trail toward the north, I launch into a run. I should shift. My wolf is pacing behind my ribs, claws scratching for the surface, but I hold him back. I know how fragile Kaelie is right now. If I arrive as a beast, I might lose the tiny bit of ground I gained with her at the ocean. I need her to see the man, not just the alpha. Alpha, West Border patrols have picked up a large group of wolves. A voice breaks into my mind. It is Orion. He is young, and I can hear the tremor of a first-time adrenaline spike in his tone. They are showing teeth, sir. Hostility is high. Remain ready, but hold the line, I command. My mind is a map of the territory. 2 sightings at opposite ends? It is a classic pincer move. Someone is trying to divide my attention. Alpha, North Border sighting. Gavin's voice cuts in next. Human forms, running fast near the coast. We have lost visual in the fog. The north. Where Kaelie is. My heart hammers against my ribs. Orion, I am sending reinforcements. Do not engage unless they cross the line, I tell him. I have a pack to protect pups in the nursery, elders in the hall. I cannot abandon my post for my mate, no matter how much my soul screams to follow her. I pivot, sprinting west toward the greater threat. My legs pump with a lethal grace, vaulting over fallen cedars and dodging limestone boulders. Barrett, send the reserve squad to the west border now, I link my beta. Already on it, Barrett's voice is cold, clinical. But Roland, we need to talk about the girl. This rogue distraction is why our borders are being tested. She is an opportunistic wanderer, and letting her stay with Helena is making the pack talk. They think you are being led by your heart, not your head. Anger, hot and corrosive, flows through my veins. He has no idea that she is not just a distraction, she is the other half of my soul. Barrett, you are overstepping, I snap, my voice like a whip in his mind. You do not know her story, and you do not know mine. Handle the border and keep your opinions to yourself before I decide I need a new beta. The link goes silent. I know the conversation is not over, but it is enough to shut him up for now. I break through the tree line at the western border. The air is thick with the musk of aggressive wolves' sweat, nerves, and raw challenge. 40 werewolves, most in their animal forms, are pacing the moss-covered floor just inches from my territory line. My own warriors are a wall of muscle in front of them, eyes locked on the intruders. I walk to the front, my presence alone enough to make the air grow heavy. I spot a black wolf in their back ranks. His eyes are wide, his tail tucked. He does not want to be here. He is a soldier of a different kind forced into this. Orion status? I ask, my eyes never leaving the intruders. They are waiting for something, Alpha. They have not made a move, but they are not leaving. I look at the line of snarling beasts. My gut is twisting. Why wait? Unless the real mission is already happening elsewhere. Quinn, I link my most trusted scout. Find Kaelie. She is in the north. If she so much as breaks a fingernail, I want to know about it. Protect her at all costs. On it, Roland, she responds. Suddenly, the largest wolf in the opposing pack, a massive, scarred beast, shifts into human form. He stands there, unashamed, his muscles bulging like knotted wood. Where is the girl? He demands, his voice a guttural rasp. The world tilts. Every protective instinct I have ever suppressed explodes at once. He is not here for land or power. He is here for her. In a blur that defies human sight, I am across the line. My hand is a vice around his throat, lifting his heavy frame off the ground. He gasps, his fingers clawing at my wrist, but I am a mountain he cannot move. What is her name? I growl, my alpha aura radiating outward, forcing the wolves behind him to whimper and step back. Her name is Kay. I do not wait for the rest of the lie. With a surge of strength that echoes through the trees, I silence him. His form falls limp to the moss. I let the shift take over. My bones crack, my fur erupts, and a roar of pure, unadulterated fury tears through the night. Must protect Kaelie. Chapter 26. At first, everything is dark. No colors, no shapes, just the rapid fire of thoughts shooting through my head. My eyes are open, but black spots cloud my vision. Little pinpricks cover my skin as my body adjusts to the rearranging of my bones. It has not happened like this since my very first shift, when I was unprepared and afraid for my life. I regain feeling in my legs. All 4 of them shake with adrenaline. Shifting always leaves behind a wave of energy that allows the transition without immediate exhaustion. Scents start to bombard my nose. The smell of pine envelopes me, but the metallic scent of blood makes my nose twitch. It is close. It is Toby's. A raging growl escapes me. Slowly, shapes focus, a towering tree, the dark ground, a lonely star peeking through the clouds. The men who took Toby have disappeared from sight, but they cannot be far. In the distance, I hear the faint snap of a tree branch. I test my limbs, pawing the ground and shaking out my fur. Everything feels normal, though there is no internal wolf voice. She has left me. I feel the need to howl in sadness, but that would give away my position. I need the element of surprise. I race into the darkness, the air rushing over my face. I allow my nose to lead the way. Up ahead, I hear the mutter of grumbling men. Victor will not like that we let that girl go. He does not like loose ends, Axel says quietly. I slow to a trot and crouch low. Victor will not like that it took us this long to start with, another man whispers. My heart thunders at the name. Victor. I force myself to stay in the moment. I want to live a life free from the man who caused years of pain. It would be easy to run, but I cannot leave Toby. I could have died at Victor's hand then, or I could have died trying to save the boy who gave me my life back. It is an easy answer. Maybe he will finally finish off that boy for what he did, Axel snarls. Forcing him into silence was a mercy for all the trouble he caused. My heart stops. Toby had helped me escape, and in turn, Victor had ensured he would never speak again, a cruel, physical silence meant to break his spirit. The acids in my stomach boil with a mixture of nausea and rage. I creep parallel to them, careful not to step on a twig. I finally find Toby. He is being dragged behind the leader, his skin scraped by the jagged forest floor. The metallic scent of blood is sharp, overwhelming my senses. I take a deep breath to clear the animalistic fog in my head. I trot ahead, circling around to face them. I am going to meet them halfway, a collision of desperation and duty. Toby deserves to know that someone cares enough to risk it all. Just as they are about to catch sight of me, a new scent floats through the air, wintergreen. It belongs to Roland's territory. Someone is tracking me under his orders. The thought that Roland is looking out for me sets my soul on fire. I dart out of the foliage as they round a line of thick pines. I stand there on 4 paws, hackles raised, and teeth bared. I am taking on 15 males, and though the odds are low, I have learned never to underestimate a survivor on a mission. Surprise flickers across the leader's face, followed by a growling laugh. He stops, his fists still gripping Toby. Axel and the others swarm to his side. Toby is curled up, eyes closed in pain. I gave you your chance, little girl. Now you pay the price. I howl in response. I will not back down. Just as I am about to charge, a golden, honey-colored wolf races into the clearing, stopping by my side. Quinn. Her wild eyes meet mine, and some of my panic disperses. She turns to the intruders, her canines bared in a ferocious snarl. Get them both, the man shouts. The men shift and charge. A wall of wolves runs full force toward us. I leap forward to meet them, my heart thundering like a drum. That is when everything goes to hell. Chapter 27. The world is a blur of shadows, heat, and a silence that rings louder than the battle ever did. Adrenaline, which usually races through my veins like liquid fire, has cooled into something heavy and hollow. I stand in the center of the clearing, my chest heaving, looking at the cost of my protection. I carried out the task I was born for. I defended the line. But as I look at the fallen lives cut short because they were sent to test me, the victory feels like ashes in my mouth. I see the faces of those who were forced into this danger just to prove themselves to a master who is not even here. I see the hopelessness etched into the stillness of the woods. I destroyed the threat to protect what is mine, but as I look at my hands, the weight of the crown I wear feels like lead. I am a monster. I can envision Kaelie's face if she were standing here now. I see the horror that would drain the color from her cheeks, the way her eyes would go razor-sharp and dark with a judgment I am not sure I could survive. She is unlike any creature I have ever encountered. She has a compass of morals and feelings that I have only begun to navigate. The thought that my instinct to protect her might be the very thing that drives her away makes my wolf howl in a silent, internal agony. I know I need to leave. I need to find her. But a king cannot leave a battlefield untended. The darkness of the north covers the clearing like a heavy, velvet cloak, offering a mercy by obscuring the true extent of the devastation. Slowly, the natural sounds of the night begin to stitch themselves back together. The buzz of an insect, the distant creak of a swaying branch, it is as if the forest is trying to heal itself, trying to forget that the peace was ever broken. I turn my gaze to my remaining warriors. Their faces are gaunt, splattered with the evidence of the struggle, their bodies steaming in the cool night air after the heat of the shift. They fought with a discipline that makes me proud, but I see the exhaustion eating at their spirits. I want a full patrol lineup around this border. Double the sentries, I say, my voice cutting through the fog like a blade of iron. No one leaves their post for any reason. If a blade of grass moves without my knowledge, I want to hear about it. I scan their faces, ensuring the weight of my command is felt. Tell the others to return to the compound. Julian is to keep the pack under a total lockdown. Not a word of this is to be whispered until I formally address the pack. Do you understand? When no one protests, I offer a final, curt nod. Clear the area. Meet me at the pack house for a debriefing in 2 hours. I have a debt to settle in the woods. I turn my back on the clearing, desperately sniffing the air for anything other than the scent of iron and pine. I need the scent of roses and coconut. I need to know that Kaelie has not pushed her luck into a corner I cannot reach. I shift. The transition is violent and fast, my bones snapping into place as my wolf takes the lead. My paws hit the earth with a rhythmic, thundering thud as I race toward her last known location. My wolf is calling to her, the ache of our separation becoming a physical throb in my marrow. I need to reach her. I need to find the words to tell her that she is the only thing keeping me from becoming the monster everyone thinks I am. I am deep into the pines, my speed blurring the trees into a smear of gray, when a mind link shatters the silence of my mind. It is not a report. It is a scream of pure, unadulterated terror. Roland, get over here. We have a problem. The voice is Quinn's. She is a seasoned warrior, a woman who has looked death in the eye without blinking, but now her mental voice is vibrating with a panic that makes my blood run cold. My stomach drops. My wolf snarls in warning, the haze of my own battle finally clearing to reveal a new, much sharper fear. Quinn was supposed to be Kaelie's shadow. She was supposed to be the failsafe. If Quinn is screaming, then Kaelie is in a world of trouble, and I might be too late to stop. I am coming, Kaelie. Hold on. Chapter 28. Kaelie's POV. Breathe. 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 It is the only thing I can remember to do. The cool, crisp air entering my nose and leaving my mouth is a gift I refuse to take for granted. At this moment, everything around me is frozen. I am caught in a snapshot of time, a frame in a movie I never asked to star in. Still, unmoving. The wolves are captured mid-charge. I see the tension in their muscles, the saliva glistening on their bared teeth, their paws lifted off the forest path in mid-stride. Together, they're a thunderstorm ready to unleash its wrath upon the earth. To my left, Quinn is a golden blur. Even without my internal wolf to guide me, I can feel her spirit. Her honey-gold coat seems to glow against the shadows, her ears pinned back, her eyes fixed on the leader with a lethal, singular focus. And then there is me. I am hurtling through the air, one paw raised. I do not have a wolf's voice in my head telling me what to do, but I have something stronger, a survivor's instinct. A raw hunger for justice is thumping through my veins. I have been pushed down, belittled, and broken by men who thought they were kings. I have lived in the shade of my own shame for years. But that ends now. When Victor's pack first stormed my home, I ran. I thought safety was something you found by fleeing. I know better now. You do not find safety, you create it. You do not let the beast take over your home. You push it out with so much force that the memory of your fury keeps it from ever coming back. The snapshot shatters. Time surges forward with a roar. My blood thumps through my veins as I crash into the first wolf. We hit the ground in a tangle of fur and snarls. Without my internal wolf, the movements are more conscious, more deliberate. I use his own momentum against him, neutralizing the threat with a swift, calculated strike. I do not have time for relief. Another is upon me. I find myself using every technique I ever watched the warriors practice. I stay light on my feet, keeping my head up and my peripheral vision wide. I move like a shadow, a creature born from the darkness and tempered by the fire of rejection. I am not enjoying the violence, but I am finding a profound, bone-deep satisfaction in defending my ground. I had just managed to fend off a third attacker when a fearful, high-pitched cry pierced the chaos. My head whipped around. Quinn, a massive gray wolf, nearly twice her size, towered above her. Quinn was pinned against a jagged limestone rock, her leg injured and held at an angle that made my stomach turn. In her eyes, I saw it. Absolute terror. The sight acted like a key in a lock. Suddenly, I was not in Roland's woods anymore. I was back in the ruins of my childhood home. I saw my small, frightened, and helpless. I saw the shadow of the wolf that ended her life because I was not quick enough. I had hesitated then. I had doubted myself. I have lived with that failure every single day, but I will not let it happen again. Not to Quinn. Not today. With a gut-wrenching snarl that sounds like 1,000 years of grief finally breaking loose, I launched myself like a missile. I hit the gray wolf's back with the full weight of my anger. Adrenaline surges, hot and blinding, as I bite down and pull, using every ounce of my strength to drag him away from her. I fight with a ferocity that shocks even me, a whirlwind of teeth and fur until the struggle leaves him and the threat is silenced. The remaining intruders, seeing their numbers dwindle and their courage fail, do not wait for a second invitation. They scramble into the dark, their tails tucked as they vanish into the deep pines. As soon as the silence returns, the adrenaline begins to drain, leaving my body feeling like lead. My legs turn to jelly and my stomach churns. I look around through the haze of exhaustion. Quinn is huddled in a ball, her breathing ragged, but she is alive. Toby is still in human form, bound and unconscious, but the steady, rhythmic beat of his heart is the most beautiful sound I have ever heard. I let my head fall to the mossy forest floor. I want to sleep for a century, but then a scent cuts through the iron and pine. Wintergreen. Wood smoke. Roland. A large black wolf bursts into the clearing. He does not go to Quinn or Toby. He races straight to me. I feel his cold nose nudge my ear, checking my wounds, his body shielding mine from the wind. He begins to rub his scent all over me, a possessive, protective gesture that makes my soul feel like it has finally stopped shivering. I begin to relax, the edges of my vision fraying. My protector stands above me, his head tilted back as he releases a long, mournful, and triumphant howl into the night sky. I drift into a tranquil state, the heavy weight of the past finally lifting. I am ready. I am ready to become a part of this pack. I am ready to look Roland in the eye and tell him the truth. I am ready to live, and I want to do it all with him by my side. Chapter 29. Roland's POV. Her breaths are shallow and even. Steady but strong. I watch her from the chair beside the bed, my fingers interlaced so tightly they have gone numb. She is so peaceful when she sleeps. Her blonde hair is fanned out around her head like a crown fit for a queen. My queen. When I found her in the woods, I felt a terror that no battle could ever induce. I had seen the fallen scattered across the clearing, the high cost of a war that had finally reached my doorstep. But I could not look at them. I could only look at her. I scooped her up as soon as I shifted, cradling her against my chest as if the sheer force of my will could keep her spirit from drifting away. Quinn was injured but stable. Toby was terrified but alive. But Kaelie was the sun going out in my sky. By the time I reached the pack compound, my heart was thundering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I shoved through the doors of the medical wing, my voice sounding desperate and raw as I shouted for the doctors. I lived in a state of suspended animation while they worked on her, my feet rooted to the hallway floor like the roots of an ancient oak. Even my wolf, usually so loud and demanding, had gone silent with the fear of a world without her. The head doctor eventually emerged, his face weary but kind. She is a fighter, Alpha. She will make it through. Now, I find myself staring at her, waiting for the moment her eyes open, so I can finally find my way back to reality. I am a king without a crown until she wakes up. Kaelie's POV. My eyes slowly open. It feels as if I have woken from a deep, centuries-long hibernation. My body is heavy, my limbs sluggish, and my eyelids feel as though they have been sealed shut. As the fog begins to lift, I start to hear voices muffled by the heavy wooden door of the room. She is a legend in the making, a feminine voice says, one of the pack nurses. I have never heard of a lone female holding off a strike team of that size. Kaelie has the heart of a warrior, a warm male voice responds. I recognize it as Julian. She trained for this once. It is in her blood. I tune out their conversation as my surroundings come into focus. I am back in the pack hospital. The peach cream walls and the small box window are exactly as I remember them from my first day here. But this time, the air feels different. It does not feel like a prison. It feels like a sanctuary. Then it all comes rushing back, the snarls, the metallic scent of iron, the weight of the wolves, and the moment Roland's scent hit me like a lifeline. Quinn. Toby. I have to know they are okay. I need to know I did not fail them. I force myself to sit up, a wave of dizziness washing over me. With a shaky hand, I carefully detach the monitors from my arm, cringing at the slight sting. I slide my legs to the edge of the bed. I am wearing a paper-thin hospital gown the color of faded lavender, and for the first time in years, I feel a chill. This is strange, my wolf whispers. Her voice is weak, but she is there. She survived the silence. I stand up on wobbly legs, crossing my arms over my chest to keep in the warmth. Walking to the door feels like trekking up a mountain, but I reach the handle and twist. The voices in the hall go silent the moment the door swings open. Helena and Julian are standing there, their faces masks of pure shock. Before I can even ask, Helena lets out a cry of relief and collapses into me, her warm embrace melting the chill in my bones. Helena. I say, my voice raspy. Quinn? Toby? Are they? They're fine, Kaelie, she says, pulling back to look at me with tear-streaked eyes. Quinn is in recovery and Toby is safe. You did it. A dam breaks inside me. I find myself crying real, deep-chested tears of relief. I made it. I am alive, and so are the people I fought for. Julian steps forward, patting my shoulder with a proud grin. I have never seen anything like it, Kaelie. You are the strongest wolf I know. Exhaustion tugs at me, but there is one more thing I need to do. Where is Roland? Helena nods toward the end of the hall, her smile turning soft. I do not wait. I use every bit of my strength to move, my werewolf speed returning to me in a rush. I turn the corner just as Roland bursts through a door at the far end. He looks like a man who has not slept in a lifetime. His dark hair is a mess, and his face is shadowed with stubble. But the moment his amber eyes lock onto mine, the world finally clicks into place. I do not wait for him to reach me. I run. When we crash together, he lifts me off my feet, holding me so tightly I can feel his heart thumping against mine. He looks at me with 1,000 questions in his eyes, but I do not give him the chance to ask. I kiss him, a tangle of passion, desperation, and the absolute hope of a new beginning. He pulls back just enough to nuzzle my cheek, a low, possessive growl vibrating in his chest that makes my wolf sing with joy. I love you, Roland, I whisper against his skin. I think I have known for a long time, but I was too afraid to believe I could have this. He kisses me again, a sweet, lingering promise. Kaelie, you are my life. You are my future. You saved my pack, and you saved me. You made me realize that there is a life possible outside of the shadows. I lean my head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. I have a home now. I have people who care. I have a mate who sees me for exactly who I am, scars, fears, and all. I have a past I will not forget and blood on my hands that I will have to live with. But I will not let those things deprive me of the happiness I have finally earned. If you make it through hell, heaven is bound to be on the other side. And as Roland holds me, I realize I have finally arrived. Epilogue. I am sitting in Roland's living room, surrounded by my new family, Julian, Quinn, Toby, Helena, and Roland. It is the day of the summer solstice. In our community, it is a day of celebration and deep gratitude. We are all gathered together, sharing platters of food, waiting for the moon to rise so we can thank the goddess for the blessings of the past year. I have not been able to celebrate a solstice in years. Even when I could, I rarely found anything to be thankful for. But today is different. This future is different. Quinn is across the room, laughing at something Julian said. Her leg healed perfectly within a few days, the perks of being a warrior with a fast recovery. Her fiery red hair is down, and she looks more relaxed than I have ever seen her. Toby is sitting at a nearby table with Helena. It took him a few days to regain his composure, but with Helena's help, he was finally able to write out his story. He told us about the years of mistreatment he endured before crossing into our territory. The truth about his lost voice still makes my blood boil with anger toward Victor, but Roland's official welcome into the pack has changed him. He is less fearful now. Today, I even saw him smile. Helena, ever the heart of this pack, turned out to be an expert in sign language. She is already teaching Toby how to communicate, and the light in his eyes when he realizes he can finally be heard is enough to bring me to tears. Roland is sitting right next to me, his arm wrapped around my waist in his usual protective anchor. He has not given me much space since I left the medical wing, and, honestly, I do not want it. The doctors explained that my wolf side had temporarily faded because I had pushed my body to its absolute limit, but she is back now, stronger than ever. What are you thinking about? Roland asks, his voice low and full of concern. I look at him, his dark hair, his strong jaw, and those amber eyes that saved me in more ways than one. I just smile and lean into him, burying my face against his chest. My wolf sighs in contentment, and I follow her lead. Nothing, I reply. Just how happy I am to be home. Roland's chest shakes as he chuckles, nuzzling the top of my head. I know we still have a long way to go. I know Victor is still out there, a shadow that may one day try to return. But I am not that frightened girl running through the woods anymore. I am a part of a pack. I am a mate. I am a survivor. We will face the future together. And if Victor ever decides to show his face again, let us just say he is the one who should be afraid.